allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I make a motion to go into an executive session. Senator Abbas seconds. We're going to start off with 467, not because it was my bill. That doesn't hurt. 467 was mandatory minimums, and I'm looking for punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation. This bill will help make New Hampshire less attractive for drug dealers. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm making a motion for it to pass.
No, I'll second.
Thank you, Senator. We're already the safest state in the nation. We want to keep it that way. It sends a message to drug dealers, as law enforcement has told us. If we send a message that you're going to do a mandatory sentence, drug dealers will sell less fentanyl. They'll be scared to sell it in New Hampshire. So we're going to throw the book at you if we can, but we also have left it open to, if you're willing to work with law enforcement, if you have something to offer them, if you're willing to be rehabilitated, if you follow various steps which are in the bill, then you can get a lesser sentence. And again, the motion is ought to pass. Is the pending motion. Do you guys have a comment? Senator Reardon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a comment. I get law enforcement's opinion that mandatory minimums actually influence it. The part of the influence behavior. The part of the bill that I'm having trouble with is the section where a prosecutor or a police officer or somebody along the way, the negotiations that happen organically now, the plea deals, the charging and all of that is put into statute. And I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you. Would you believe, Senator, this very morning, I was sitting up in the governor's at the beautiful room there off at the Executive Council chamber, and I had mothers from Portsmouth, two mothers who lost their children in 24. And one of them wasn't there. She couldn't handle being here today. So she has lost her child, and she's like, I can't believe that you guys don't have anything that's putting them away for a long period of time. You had 2 in 2 weeks in Portsmouth die 2 years ago, and you still haven't addressed it properly. I told her we're going to do the best we can today. So I understand your misgivings, but I don't have them. On the ought to pass motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
3-2, I'll take it out. I'm introducing, going to 554, motioning ITL. It was on
Second.
Thank you for the second. The existing law, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The existing law doesn't provide protections that one of the senators thought for liability for faulty guns. It prevents lawsuits over optional features. If a gun is in a holster and goes off, that's a defect, and the existing law does not prevent that person from suing. That's the reasoning behind the ITL motion. Senator Oshler. I'm sorry, I thought your hand was up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we did last year was create a space where safety mechanisms now become optional, similar to taking the brakes off a car and calling it optional and then not being held responsible because you didn't put brakes on the car. So I do not support an ITL motion. This bill singles out a single manufacturer, unlike any other manufacturer in the state of New Hampshire, and that is not fair play.
Senator Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In fairness, we saw this similar legislation prior to any changes we made to the limited liability law. So we've seen it before. I'll just say that changes in the law like this, you saw Remington leave New York, and you saw Smith & Wesson left Massachusetts. And I think when this manufacturer came here, in part was if we would adopt this policy. All right. And again, we talk about optional equipment, but that doesn't, there's still product liability cases for defective products. If it, changing this, I mean, again, the federal law already doesn't allow it. But I'm not sure, you know, that we're gonna have state law claims now. I don't think they're gonna
Thank you,
stay.
Senator. Senator Ridden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think when you absolve a manufacturer that would normally be held to strict liability by circumventing it with language like this, you, only in the state of New Hampshire are we doing that. They can sue other places. That's, as I said last year, that's the problem that I have with this bill. Somebody makes an inherently dangerous product. Used the way it's meant to be used, it's inherently dangerous. And when you take away the strict liability by adding optional features to it, it doesn't change the circumstances where we know there are hundreds of cases of this across the country. So I think we're just blind to the fact that there's a problem with this gun. You're asking a plaintiff to prove strict liability. Sig Sauer doesn't know what's wrong with a gun, and you're asking an injured plaintiff to come up with what's wrong with a gun.
But you have to understand,
Senator. Go ahead.
right now, if a firearm were to discharge unintentionally, just on its own, under the existing laws, you could still bring a claim against them for that. By requiring a safety to be on there, this one does not mean that person's the one using the safety. And they can always add a safety to that part if they chose to. That's another option. All right? But we're simply just saying that in that circumstance, by simply not having a safety, that's the change in law that we're talking about. By adding the safety or not having it is in and of itself is a product liability claim. I don't agree with that, you know, just from a legal principle. But I think by clarifying the law, it leads to less, what I would say, frivolous lawsuits. I don't think that makes it in and of itself inherently dangerous.
Thank you, Senator. One more. Not a big
I'll
deal.
just say, I'm not sure I've heard a lot of accusations that the law enforcement officers that have been shot, that have had their guns discharged, are filing frivolous lawsuits.
Oh, and let me clarify, I don't believe those are frivolous lawsuits. If the firearm were to discharge on its own for no reason, then that's a product liability claim. And they can bring that claim here in New Hampshire if they want to, under the existing law, as it stands today.
Thank you, Senators. I'm moving the question. So the motion is ITL. All in favor of the ITL motion?
Aye.
Agreed. And opposed?
No,
I'll take it out. Thank you. 556, which is the Senator Murphy syringe and medical device. Well-meaning, it also would include other things. Thank you. That's where it's gone, but thank you. And second by Senator Abbas. So whereas it's going to include diabetic needles that a kid might inadvertently throw or drop, and they would be technically on the line for a felony. Would like to work this out and get the bill better, and I'd like to move forward on the interim study motion of Senator Garrison. Okay, well, that's good. All in favor of the interim study?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I move consent.
So,
All in favor of the consent motion?
I,
Aye. Senator Abbas?
I'll take it out.
Thank you. Let's skip that one. Well, now we're at 120, so, can we go on? Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Are you okay? Did Kate talk to you? Okay. On SB 621, I'm making a motion for ITL, seconded by Senator Abbas. Thank you, Senator.
Which one?
621, establishing the homicide cold case unit. The AG's office.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
I have
The
my hand
AG's
up.
office and state police opposed the bill. The AG has recently put in additional resources and expanded the cold case unit, including additional investigators, prosecutors, state police personnel, victims, advocates, witnesses. They do not believe the bill is necessary. There's also concern with privacy and confidentiality. We don't want details of a case that are not legally permitted to be public, to be collected through right to know requests of the commission. Civilians on the commission also may not understand what information they're told and can be shared publicly, which would pose a risk to the investigation. So again, the pending motion is ITL. Senator Oshler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate what you put forward on the bill that was introduced at committee, but in our folders, we do have an amendment that was brought forward shortly after the hearing. And it actually addresses some of the concerns they have in the bill. The amendment was brought into us the day after, so
I'm sorry.
we
Yeah, I
don't,
didn't
if
get
we,
it. Do you have it, Senator Rose?
yeah, it was placed in my folder.
Oh,
No, I hear you. It's in your
Yes.
folder.
Yeah, do you not have it in yours?
We don't. Right.
You have it?
Senator Reed?
Yeah.
You do.
From Senator Long, dated January 16th, Amendment 030136.
I hear you. I don't
Yeah.
know why we don't have it.
Okay,
Okay.
so, with,
Can I withdraw the motion?
yeah,
We'll come back to
if
this
you would,
another-
yeah, so we could
You have it?
discuss.
Yeah, it's on the desk.
Okay.
No, this is liquor products. No. No, we don't have it, no.
I don't know how it got in my folder. Do you,
Yeah, they don't have it, we don't have it.
Okay.
oh, well,
Yep.
can we give it to you to, so there's an amendment brought forward by Senator Long.
I'm going to withdraw my motion so we can all at a later time and we'll come back to this.
We'll come back. Okay, good enough. Good
So
enough.
withdrawing
Thank you.
the motion.
Did you get it
Second.
in yours?
second to withdraw.
Okay.
All in favor of withdrawing the motion?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to SB 623. I have an ITL motion. I'll explain why.
Second.
Thank you. The bill would impede our immigration enforcement efforts, requiring New Hampshire law enforcement who are participating in the 287G programs from complying with ICE protocols. This would involve a danger and make them less effective. We're not a sanctuary state. We do not believe that state police would impede. We don't want to pass legislation that would impede immigration enforcement. I did talk to some of the stakeholders, one being the sheriff's office and the state police, and they've told me that at the moment they're in charge of, they set the policies, they're having no problems out there. They're actually, the sheriff's office is going and making arrests on their own with the detainer. He wants to stay in charge. He'll make the decision whether or not it's a danger to, if it's a circumstance where he would not want the officer's badge or face to be seen, depending on if there was a gang member from South American country that they were arresting. He actually had a warrant at, this was last week, to go out and pick up a murder from a South American country. And so I think they have dangers that we can only guess at. And I wouldn't want to interfere with their performance of 287 duties and put them at greater risk. Senator Reardon, I'll let you go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think the bill is a little simpler than that it's just not asking anything of federal law enforcement, only local, state
Yep.
law enforcement to wear their badge, a face covering, and they can't disengage their body camera. And I think I fully appreciate everything you're saying about the dangers that the police face when arresting people. And I think it's important for us to recognize they do that every single day. They never know what they're coming up onto in a car or a situation or a house, especially when they're doing an arrest warrant. So I think it's good law enforcement practice that's kept them safe this far. And we're not asking to impede that in any way. We're just asking for people not to be masked.
Mike, come back to you, Senator. Do you not see Trent de la Ragua, however you say that name, you always say it better than I do, Senator. If it was a gang member from them who are notorious for going after law enforcement, particularly in the South, but if they're aware that we were arresting one of their gang members, our personnel then would be at a higher risk. So the sheriff told me he would like to keep the discretion of, just like if we send a detective out in the field, they don't show their badge, there's a reason they're not doing that. So in a certain circumstance of law enforcement, and we haven't had any problems with that here in New Hampshire, if they feel it's the best course of duty for the safety of their officers to maybe wear a face covering or, not show their badge when they're going in, I'd like to leave it in their hands, especially where we've had no problems. And I trust in their knowledge, but
We disagree.
we disagree.
Thanks.
Senator Alshler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So while I understand that I'm assuming, did you speak with the sheriff from
was there.
Rockingham?
No,
From
I
Hillsborough?
think it was Hillsborough, yes.
Okay, well, their intention may be to be in control. What they signed, the MOU, actually relinquishes control. So while they may not be in the company of an ICE officer at the time of all of their actions, when there's an ICE officer present, they are now reporting to ICE. And what this bill does is say that if in the course of doing their duties, they abide by what we have already spent many, many years and resources putting together the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Manual. And within that manual, we say what the standards are for our law enforcement organizations. And if we were to allow for law enforcement to indiscriminately or at their discretion start covering their faces or covering their badges or disengaging their body cams, we would be going exactly against the policy that we already put together. And this bill says we did a good job putting together our policies and that we should stick with those policies. Also, the sheriff's department doesn't do undercover work. That's not their job. That's if they have to be on a very special mission. That is not in the course of their duties.
A question for you. So they have made a contract, so would we
Right.
not be interfering with this, interfering with the contract? We're not a sanctuary state. Haven't we did we not vote in to let the law enforcement make this choice on their own?
This bill has nothing to do, and I don't know why you keep bringing up sanctuary states. We're not a sanctuary state. We passed a bill against sanctuary cities. That's not at argument today. The bill that we're talking about is talking about New Hampshire law enforcement standards. And our standards, as outlined in the very comprehensive New Hampshire Law Enforcement Manual, which was provided to you through a link, says that we do not do these things that we have now observed ICE doing in communities across the nation. And so, since we have observed on multiple occasions ICE officers in the course of their duties using face masks, covering their badges, covering their names, and not using body cam, we want to reiterate that our policies, our training, our critical incidents training that's all encompassed in our manuals are what we intend for our law enforcement officers to do. And that even if we are engaging with federal agencies, we are not going to break our own standards. That's what's at issue.
Senator Atlas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that the subject matter is a hot political topic, but ultimately, if local law enforcement can be working with federal officers, in this case, this bill applies to the 287G program, it puts restrictions on how they're able to actually work with them, which may, as you said, might be inconsistent with their own policy, the federal policy. So it kind of makes, we say we won't be a sanctuary, we're not a sanctuary state, but then we say we're not going to have any policy that's going to obstruct, assisting law enforcement, in enforcing federal immigration laws. Yet this kind of may go follow to the 287G program. At least maybe not in the immediate time, but it could in the future if we were to pass this. So just objectively looking at it, I don't think this is going to work. Also, for face covering and masks, it doesn't even take into consideration, tactical unit or tactical face wear. I mean, it just says any type of face covering, period, without any exception to it. So,
Senator Carson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There's one thing I do agree with on this bill, and it is something that in this committee we have discussed many times, and it's the police wearing the body-worn cameras. I think they've become increasingly important because we get to see things from the officer's point of view, and we catch their language, how they're engaging with people, and their own actions, not only of themselves, but of the people that they're dealing with. And I agree that this is a good thing. Where I disagree is on the face masks. The problem is, and we have seen it across the country, that officers the ICE officers, they're getting doxxed. And that is very, very dangerous. And that is a step beyond the pale, where protesters are identifying them and they're doxing their families, they're threatening their families as well as the lives of the officers. So I see them wearing this face mask to protect themselves and to protect their families. And I think it would be unreasonable of us to take that away, that protection away from the police officers. They wear masks. We have SWAT units. Many times they are masked. Do we go now further on and say, well, we have a lot of people working undercover, that they must wear their badge, they must wear a camera, they have to use their real names, we can't protect their identities. Is that how far this is going to go? I'm going to support the motion of, I believe it's ITL, and I think we need to let the police do their job.
On the,
Just to point out, as written, no officer shall disable or disengage their body-worn camera when they're providing any type of assistance under 287G. I mean, keep in mind that would apply as written even when they're not in the field. Like, it can be-
No,
go on, Senator Ramos.
So if they're providing any type of assistance, all right, anyone who's involved, all right, and I just think we're trying to really restrict what they can and can't do so tightly that I'm hesitant to do that with the police. I think in New Hampshire, we trust our law enforcement. They do a great job until we don't have any reason to go in the other direction with this.
I think we've discussed enough. I'm moving forward on the ITL motion. All in favor of the ITL?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
no,
Read it too.
I can take it out.
Okay, Senator Ramos will take it out. Moving on to 625, permitting family members of homicide victims to seek an evidentiary hearing in cases where the justice does not file charges in the case. I have a motion to interim study. I have a second from Senator Abbas. The reasoning behind it is we give the AG's office as the investigative and prosecutorial authority without any interference from the public. The more you bring the public into the investigative process, the more you risk having the public involvement being used as a defense in those cases. So again, the motion at hand is interim study. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the interim study motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion for consent?
Move consent?
Second. All in favor of the consent motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'll take that. Okay, I believe we're ready to go to HB 1000. Correct?
Did you want to go back to 621 now that everyone has the
Which
amendment?
one? No, I want to read it first.
Okay.
Rather than,
You have to do a motion.
yeah, motion to come out of exec, seconded by
So moved.
Senator Harrison. All in favor of coming out of exec?
I,
Aye. Okay, now we're moving forward with HB 1000. Who's introducing that? Yes. Thank you, Attorney Lehman. Good afternoon, Attorney Lehman. Always looking good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I just want to introduce this bill for your consideration. The purpose of the bill is to extend the defense and indemnity protection that you have already afforded to general court security to include House and Senate sergeants at arms. At present, there's at least a risk that they could find themselves personally liable for work-related incidents. that seems unfair, and the purpose of the bill is to make sure that the people who protect you are fully protected from liability for actions taken within their functions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Does anyone else wish to testify to HB 1000? Seeing none, I'll end the hearing on HB 1000.
You want to go to-
Yep.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second? Okay, so HB 1000, discussion. Ought to pass by Senator Abbas, seconded by myself. All in favor of the ought to pass motion? Aye. Motion for consent?
Well, okay. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure we're following here. So there's a consent motion.
Yes.
And did everyone vote?
Yep.
Okay. So who's taking it out?
Did
I
we
was
not have
second
a?
consent.
Okay, all in favor of the consent motion?
Aye.
We didn't already do it. Okay, Senator Abbas will take it up. Oh, Senator Reed, would you take it out? I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Surprised.
Okay, and then we're gonna move to 465. You're
We need a
gonna
motion. I move we
come out of exec.
executive session.
Second, all in favor of moving, come out of exec?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody? Okay, 465.
Okay.
624. So you're up. Name up. Don't breathe on me. No. Not running my blood.
Try my best. Six, five.
You can try and see what Senator Abbas, he might let you post. He's break the poster, go for it if you get away with it.
This time we'll now open the public hearing on Senate Bill 465, and the chair recognizes Senator Gannon to introduce the bill.
Thank you very much. I'm Senator Bill Gannon from the heart of the Wine District in District 23. Today's 465 is about xylazine. I'm going to let Kaylee McGlynn tell you most of it, but I became aware of it through her and through the Raymond Coalition. It's an animal tranquilizer, and it's being used to cut approximately 30% of our fentanyl in state. It's an unscheduled thing other than, I do have an amendment, by the way. The amendment is for veterinarians, so they can use it and their use won't be interrupted. But the bad thing about xylazine, there might be a lot of bad things, two of them offhand. One is that they do cut it. If your heart stops beating because you've been using fentanyl, they go to zap you back to life. The Narcan, being a tranquilizer, sort of shields the heart and doesn't let it jump back into rhythm. So we can lose people because time after time, this drug, if it's that 30% and you've got a batch with it, it can stop the Narcan from working. So we're looking to mandate the drug as a Schedule III controlled substance. Right now, if they go into a drug lab scene and they see xylazine there, it's a very cheap drug. I believe it's about $30 a pound you can buy it for. So it's very cheap alternative for drug dealers to use to cut drugs. I'll let Kaylee has such an extensive knowledge of the subject. I will let her go into detail.
Great, thank you, Chair Gannon and Vice Chair Abbas and committee members. My name is Kaylee McGlynn. I'm proud to stand here today for the reason that this bill has come to fruition. I would like to acknowledge that SB 465 is founded by an academic poster I presented, and it's titled "A Call to New Hampshire Legislators Expediting Xylazine to be a State-Level Controlled Substance." I've also had the privilege of presenting this at the national level at a conference in Washington, D.C. This project is not only relevant to me as an equestrian, but an advocate for improved addiction prevention policies, but also as a born and raised Granite Stater who has witnessed the impact that substance use has had on our communities. Additionally, I've been honored to spend time both as an intern at the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration and a local law enforcement department to diversify my understanding of drug crimes in our state.
I have the privilege of completing my undergraduate degree at Southern New Hampshire University, an environment with highly educated scientists, attorneys, and sociologists who have supported and revised this project to satisfy evidence-based findings. Today, I present with great pride, along Chair Senator Gannon, Senate Bill 465, a bill to schedule xylazine as a Schedule III controlled substance. As Senator Gannon already introduced, it's commonly referred to as tranq or zombie drug. Xylazine is a veterinary tranquilizer, completely unapproved for human use, and it's being utilized as an adulterant in illicit drugs like fentanyl and heroin. This drug has been known to reduce the effectiveness of naloxone or Narcan in opioid overdoses and also form necrotic wounds that can ultimately lead to limb loss. Some users, per the DEA, actually report that xylazine withdrawals are profoundly worse than heroin or methadone. Despite xylazine's criminal involvement in expediting the addiction cycle, this drug is unscheduled and therefore immune from prosecution of its possession in the state of New Hampshire. Xylazine is currently not classified as a controlled substance under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, and federal efforts to address this have not been timely given its growing impact in New Hampshire. I quoted, as Senator Gannon did before, the DEA said xylazine has been found in about 30% of fentanyl seized in New Hampshire. Other states have issued specific local scheduling measures to combat increasing numbers and presence. After intense analyzation and evaluation of the current circumstances, the evidence presented indicates it is in the state legislature's best interest to mandate the drug as a Schedule III controlled substance. Illicitly, drug manufacturers are making a larger profit from utilizing xylazine in their products. Drug dealers are able to cut expensive opiates like fentanyl and heroin with cheap $6 to $20 kilos of xylazine, making high-yield profits, in addition to also amplifying the sheer amount of drugs on the market. New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services officials have issued formal statements to healthcare professionals informing them of the substance presenting itself in clinical settings. Healthcare professionals are left with a lack of training, understanding, and treatment guidelines for both psychological and physiological effects of xylazine. As much as it is a regulation concern, we are grappling with an uncontrolled emerging public health crisis. The available New Hampshire data on xylazine is not indicative that this problem will be self-resolving. The data I have presented to you is a complete set of 2024 overdose death reports from the New Hampshire Chief Medical Examiner's Office, showing a cumulative illustration of xylazine-positive toxicology. While a complete data set exists for 24, which is what this graph demonstrates, only 2 reports have been posted for 2025 to date. As of December 9th, 2025 data, there have been 10 fentanyl deaths where xylazine was identified. So while there's been an overall decrease in toxicology from December 24 to December 25, this does not indicate that the crisis will follow this pattern. I make the argument that this bill is both proactive and reactive. Reactive in the sense that we are reacting to the demonstrated presence this drug has in our state, but proactive to the extent that we are in a position to implement effective controls on this drug before its trajectory becomes even more dangerous. The DEA has stated that the emergence of xylazine in the United States is following the same geographical path as fentanyl. I would like to acknowledge that there have been federal efforts produced by our own Congressman Chris Mappus, including the Bipartisan Combating Illicit Xylazine Act. However, this legislation has been in existence since 2023, and while recently introduced, it has made no progress or been implemented nor even exited the committee. It is well established that federal responses often require significant time and possess many different variables, but timely action is required to control this tranquilizer. The New Hampshire people deserve this safeguard. Our medical professionals should rightfully claim confidence rather than confusion, and the citizens of New Hampshire should not be in limbo for federal action, while ongoing regulatory delays leave room for this issue to become out of hand. In order to gain oversight on a larger scale, scheduling this drug is the first step. HB 287, through a formal action, decriminalized xylazine and fentanyl test strips in August of 2023, proving that it has been and is still a problem in New Hampshire. Although we have specific harm reduction legislation, there has been no concurrent measures to pursue scheduling this substance. This bill gives the state the ability to act much quicker than what the federal landscape has shown and protect those who are impacted by substance use disorders. This drug is not solely identified with the illicit market, and I want to acknowledge and make it very apparent that veterinary practitioners around our state require this drug to be used in methods of sedation and tranquilization of large animals. The legitimate method of administration is considered within the contents of Senate Bill 465. Rather than classifying this drug in Schedule 1 due to its unaccepted human use, classification in Schedule 3 allows veterinarians and other practitioners to order and administer the drug with minimal constraints. SB 465 ensures avoiding any unnecessary barriers to legitimate use, but is narrowly tailored to the picture that xylazine plays in the illicit market. To serve the public interest, I call upon the Senate Judiciary Committee to vote in favor of Senate Bill 465. To quote New Hampshire DA Special Agent in Charge Paul Spira, we've seen it from Seabrook to Colebrook. It's everywhere. And for those reasons, I urge the committee to support this bill, ask questions, and take action to combat this vicious horse tranquilizer, ultimately taking the lives of New Hampshire citizens. I would like to thank all my professors and professional advisors for aiding in the development of this project, and I'm open to any and all questions regarding my testimony. Thank you.
I believe they're handing out the amendment, which is 0586. It's just clarifying that non-human use for animals can be done by veterinarians.
Seeing no questions, thank you both for your testimony, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. This time, the chair recognizes Marissa McGlynn. This time, the chair recognizes. Oh, my apologies.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Judiciary Committee. My name is Marissa McGlynn, and I strongly support this bill to classify xylazine as a Schedule III controlled drug in New Hampshire. This legislation is both timely and necessary. Xylazine, a powerful veterinarian sedative not approved for human use, has increasingly appeared in the illicit drug supply across the United States, often mixed with opioids like fentanyl. When xylazine is present, it significantly complicates overdose response, increases the severity of wounds and infections, and contributes to poor health outcomes for people who use drugs. Because it is not currently scheduled under New Hampshire law, there is no statutory framework to regulate its distribution, penalize illegal manufacture or diversion, or guide law enforcement and public health responses effectively. Classifying xylazine as a Schedule III controlled drug aligns New Hampshire's legal framework with the realities on the ground. Schedule III status appropriately reflects the substance's significant risk for harm when misused, while also leaving room for legitimate, limited veterinarian use under regulated conditions. This classification creates a clear legal structure that protects public safety without impeding necessary animal care practices. Public health and community health are at the core of this bill's intent. Over recent years, public health agencies across multiple states have observed xylazine increasingly detected in overdose toxicology reports, often alongside fentanyl. Its presence is associated with severe skin ulcers, soft tissue damage, and increased risk of infection because xylazine's pharmacology, particularly its vasoconstrictive effects, can inhibit blood flow and delay healing. These clinical realities have been documented by medical examiners and harm reduction advocates in jurisdictions experiencing high rates of contaminated drug supply. Moreover, xylazine's inclusion in the illicit drug supply complicates emergency medical response. Naloxone, the opioid overdose reversal medication, does not reverse xylazine's effects, meaning that individuals experiencing overdose involving xylazine require more intensive medical care and monitoring. Without statutory control of this substance, first responders and clinicians are forced to navigate these complex cases without the added support of a clear regulatory framework designed to deter distributing and misuse. From a criminal justice perspective, Schedule III classification gives prosecutors and law enforcement properly calibrated tools to intervene when xylazine is trafficked, combined with other substances, or distributed illicitly. It also ensures consistency with federal and other states' approaches to emerging synthetic substances posing health risks. This is not a moralist bill and an unnecessary expansion of criminal penalties. It is a public health and safety bill. It provides clarity for law enforcement, structure for regulation, and protection for communities facing the consequences of this rapidly evolving illicit drug landscape. For these reasons, I strongly support SB 465 and urge the committee to recommend it as ought to pass. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm willing to answer any and all questions.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Robert Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Rob Johnson, representing the New Hampshire Farm Bureau Federation's Policy Director. And I'm here asking for your consideration and support for the amended bill. And our concern here is cost to livestock owners needing veterinary care for their animals. Our understanding is with a Schedule III classification, that cost could be substantial, taken into consideration of time and paperwork for veterinarians as that would be passed on to livestock owners. And I would just in closing like to make the point that there is a humane care component to this, as with increased costs, if they're substantial, it will affect the ability for livestock owners to care for their animals. And this comes at a time when there's already it's challenging for many livestock owners to find the veterinary, large animal veterinary care that they need. I'll leave it at that and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. Could you just walk me through what rescheduling this, how it will change the pricing and affect?
My understanding,
I'm not, yeah.
sure. My understanding, it would not necessarily be the pricing, though I would ask the veterinarians this, but it would be the time it would take them to comply with the full regulation in the paperwork. That's our understanding. That's our concern. Sure thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you for recognizing me. And Sue Hamola, representing CM New Hampshire. Everything's been said on this prior so well for the previous speakers. I just want to say CM New Hampshire strongly supports this bill, and New Hampshire has an opportunity to be a leader across the U.S. with regard to this drug. Thank you.
Come on up. Sorry about that.
She's the very first one.
Oh, yeah, there's yes, okay. I know you skipped it, but I'll take
Sorry,
the
it's
blame.
my fault.
I'll take the blame. It's okay. Nope, when the red button.
All right, red.
No, you're
Now
there.
I'm on.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much for allowing us to talk to you today. My name is Dr. Jane Barlow-Roy. I am a veterinarian here in the Concord area. I am representing the New Hampshire Veterinary Medical Association. Beside me is my cohort, Dr. Katie Larson. She is representing the large animal side of things. I am a small animal practitioner. We would just like to say we do support 465 with the amendment that allows for the carve out of regular veterinary practices because we are very much concerned that any sort of xylazine that gets into the human world is illicit. We do not prescribe to humans. We prescribe just to our own animal patients. Having it as I know we've thrown out the different schedules right now. Schedule 1 is the illicit medications such as heroin and marijuana. Schedule 2 are your morphines, codeines, things like that. Schedule 3 is in the family of things like ketamine, anabolic steroids, testosterone. So that's where xylazine will end up. It won't end up in one of those Schedule 1s. I think, generally we just appreciate the fact that we're allowed this carve out so that we can continue using it as a large animal sedative, with our bovine and equine practices.
I'm Dr. Katie Larson. As Jane just said, I am the New Hampshire VMA president and a large animal practitioner practicing in New Hampshire. And just to reiterate what Dr. Barlow said, this is a medication that we need as veterinary practitioners in order to keep us safe, in order to promote the welfare of the animals that we're working on, prevent us from being kicked. It's a short-acting pain medication, so it's something that we need to practice high quality medicine, as well as protect the welfare of the animals that we work on every day. And honestly, I probably use this on 95% of the large animals that I see. So it's something I need. And we strongly urge you to support our veterinary exemption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your testimony. Now I think we got everyone. Anyone else wish to speak on 465 who we missed? Seeing none, that'll end the testimony. You're like my security blanket. Like, oh, geez, I'll have to do it all.
This time we'll now open the public hearing on Senate Bill 624. This time the chair recognizes Senator Gannon to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. 624 came about because several people in the state have been going to little bodegas and they're seeing stuff on the walls, and we have teenage kids having access to hemp-based products. I'll let Officer Danielle go further. I could delve into it, but she's going to make it much clearer and simpler, so we'll go there.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle Elson. I'm Deputy Chief of New Hampshire Liquor Enforcement. As Senator Gannon said, we are heavily invested in this bill because we regulate the New Hampshire licensees in the state. In many of the convenience stores throughout the state, we are finding hemp-based products that are in the market based on the loophole of the federal Farm Bill. Some history for you: in 2018 Farm Bill created a definition of hemp. The simple version of this, the quote that you might have heard for this is, "This bill was created for rope, not dope." It was to allow hemp cultivators to take their crops and create textiles, paper, construction materials, biofuel, and certain health progress, and use those for agriculture and to boost the economy. A loophole was created that allowed these products to be made into drinks and edible type products, which was never the intent of the legislation. The amendment, as you see here, reflects what was just done federally and closes the loophole to rein those products back in. But this is a real problem in New Hampshire. These products are in our convenience stores. There's no testing, there's no labeling requirements. There is no age restriction on these products. So we have, at New Hampshire Liquor Enforcement, received several complaints of children as young as 12 who have purchased these products and actually overdosed on them because they do have high THC content. So the goal of this is to rein the products in, mirror what has been done federally in the Farm Bill. One reason these were able to get into the industry so quickly is hemp is defined in the hemp statutes in New Hampshire, but there really is no pointing at licensees to know what a hemp-based product is and what products are allowed and what are not. So what you'll see in here is it redefines hemp to include all parts of the plants and the derivatives, to include the THCA content of not more than 3% on a dry weight basis, but it also imposes the 4 milligram total per container and defines the container. This mirrors what has been done federally in the Farm Bill. So products exceeding this limit are excluded from the legal definition of hemp. We do create an age restricted for the products, even if they are the legal hemp products. This just ensures that even if there are the legal hemp products in the market, they're 21 plus, so that we can ensure that everybody getting them understands what they're consuming. It does create penalties for both an individual and a corporation and association, and also points licensees in New Hampshire to the hemp definition so that they understand what hemp products they can and can't have in the state. This is important because our administrative authority only covers licensed establishments through us. There are other establishments in the state that do not hold a retail license through us. So this allows pop-up carts, pop-up stores that local law enforcement encounters to also seek penalties if they so choose.
Thank you. Under the existing law, what is the penalty now for, I'm not talking about the possession, but for the
There is
store?
There isn't one. So we have some authority under our Title 13. We have an unlawful purpose statute, which requires all licensees to abide by the laws of the state of New Hampshire. But realistically, in the hemp statutes themselves, there is no designated penalty for those people who sell products that aren't defined by hemp.
A follow-up, if this were to pass and become law as it's written, if there was a store that were to sell it again, whether they sold it to an adult or someone under 21, would the penalty then be?
So our penalties are created in rule, so we would create those penalties in rule based on the rulemaking process. So there is no administrative penalty designated in this statute. It just would point licensees to the hemp statute under us, and then penalties would be created later during the rulemaking process.
Thank you. Senator Reardon?
Thank you. So I have a question. No problem. So paragraph 1 prohibits selling any of those products, and paragraph 2 prohibits possession of any of those products.
Correct.
But we still expect these to be available because you can just get them over the internet.
We're hoping part of this is to combat that, but the goal would be that if they do get in the market, at least we have an age restriction on them. What we have found is that even with the illegal products, so part of the issue too in New Hampshire that we find is some states have adopted hemp programs. So they regulate hemp, they allow some of these higher THC hemp products in, and they have their own system. So the packaging that's coming over looks like legitimate packaging. It says Farm Bill compliant, it has age restrictions on it, but there's actually no requirement for that in this state. So the goal here is kind of twofold. It's get them out of the market completely is really the goal, but at least the licensees understand the age restriction. That's something they're used to with tobacco and alcohol. So by saying, hey, you can't sell these products if you're under 21, it's a kind of a reinforcement back against the dam, if you will, that if these products do get in and it is an illegal product or a product that shouldn't be sold, at least there's an age restriction on it, which most tend to abide by. Oh, yeah. So there is an amendment that will be submitted over this, and that amendment is what it includes the federal definition with the container size. Oh, yeah.
I was reading the wrong version.
0483.
Yep.
Correct.
Thank you, Senator Gannon, for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Seeing no questions, I want to thank you both for your testimony. At this time, the chair recognizes Matt Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Matt Simon, representing Granite Leaf Cannabis. We are neutral on this bill. I just wanted to take the opportunity to come in and make a few comments.
Thank you. Good. Sorry about that.
No problem,
You got me
Senator.
excited.
I apologize. I didn't realize I was that full of energy today.
It's all this talk about marijuana.
I'm actually missing an Olympic curling gold medal game to be here, so my mind is partially on that, but we can talk about hemp for a few minutes. I support the goal of certainly getting these products out of New Hampshire retailers. I think it makes sense to establish the age restriction. I think it makes sense to establish these penalties for retailers, to give the Liquor Commission clear enforcement penalties. I was going to testify about some of the shortfalls in this definition as drafted that wouldn't close the loopholes that I think you intend to close. So I'll look forward to reviewing the amendments that's been mentioned, see if it does the job. Main thing I wanted to say about this, as the one person who spent a lot of time in the other chamber trying to educate them and trying to pass the previous bill we had, closing a loophole, they were very resistant in the other chamber. And I think they'll be very resistant in particular to the idea of establishing personal possession penalties for these products, which are still federally legal, will still be federally legal until November. And there are a lot of efforts underway to try to change the federal law before it gets implemented. I don't think any of us know how that will go. If you do choose to proceed with penalties, I would suggest that these penalties in lines 11 through 13 are more harsh than we currently have on the books for quote unquote marijuana. If you're caught possessing a small amount of marijuana, it is a violation and cannot be charged with a misdemeanor until the fourth offense, I believe, and this would make it a misdemeanor chargeable on the second offense. So I don't imagine the other chamber will like that one bit. I think the most likely way to get this all the way into law is to remove personal possession penalties entirely. But if you are going to proceed with them, I would make them mirror the penalties for marijuana. And that's all I got for today.
If you can make copies of the amendment. Just for peace of mind, the effective date is January 1st of 2027.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Shirley McGlynn.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. As mentioned, my name is Kaylee McGlynn. I'm a student at Southern New Hampshire University. I'm here in favor to testify upon SB 624 to protect the changing drug landscape we are encountering. THC is a known psychoactive ingredient in marijuana with true side effects, an immense amount of concern, particularly in the youth population. It is known the 2018 Farm Bill was built for rope, not for dope. And the core strength of legislation is being able to tailor the law to your citizens. This bill effectively modifies the highly active psychoactive substances and provides tailoring to this loophole. Youth substance use should be concerning to everyone here in this room. Large corporations are preying on young people to entice the use of Delta 8 and Delta 9 THC problems. Just as children mimic adult behavior, the decision and legislation put forward sets a tone for standard and safety. This is a matter of public health, youth, and well-being. The clarification and closure of this legal loophole is necessary for protecting the public and molding the law to fit the current needs of the state. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Seeing no questions. Have a great day. Marissa McGlynn. Hello again.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Judiciary Committee. My name is Marissa McGlynn, and this legislation is necessary because products marketed as hemp-derived but containing psychoactive THC are a public health concern that current laws do not adequately address. These substances, including Delta 8 THC and other isomers, are chemically similar to Delta 9 THC, the principal psychoactive component of cannabis that affects brain functioning and behavior. Data from the Monitoring the Future survey shows that approximately 11% of U.S. 12th grade students reported past year use of Delta 8 THC, highlighting how accessible these products are to youth despite limited regulation. The adolescent and young brain continues to develop well into the mid-20s, and scientific evidence suggests that cannabis exposure during this period can influence neurological maturation, cognition, and mental health outcomes. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention states that cannabis use may harm the developing brain and can affect areas responsible for memory, attention, decision-making, and coordination. While some cannabinoids have been studied for therapeutic potential, the current evidence does not support broad, unregulated access to psychoactive cannabinoid products. A comprehensive review of cannabis and cannabinoid treatments found limited or inconclusive evidence of benefit for most medical conditions, which these products are promoted for, and noted risks including addiction and impaired cognitive function, particularly among young users. This bill appropriately does not ban hemp itself or non-intoxicating hemp derivatives, but it closes a loophole that allows psychoactive cannabinoids to be sold widely without appropriate oversight or age restrictions. The age 21 provision recognizes that even low doses of psychoactive cannabinoids carry greater risk for younger individuals whose brain are still developing. There is no federal minimum age for the sale of many hemp-derived THC products, and these products are often sold in retail environments without meaningful enforcement of age limits. This legislation structure, defining prohibited products clearly, setting age limits, and establishing proportional penalties, is consistent with how we regulate other psychoactive substances that pose well-documented risks to public health. It strikes a balance between preserving lawful hemp production and protecting consumers, especially youth, from exposure to substances with psychoactive effects that are not adequately evaluated for safety or medical benefit. For these reasons, I urge the committee to support this bill and recommend it as ought to pass. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm willing to take any and all questions.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Kate Fry. I'm the Vice President of Advocacy. We are here to support SB 624 as it will strengthen New Hampshire's ban on intoxicating hemp products in New Hampshire, and we thank the sponsor for bringing this bill forward. So we at New Futures have been working on this issue since 2023. The state has had a ban in place, but many licensees continue to sell these products. The best thing we see out of this bill is that it will finally mandate all licensees to comply with these new restrictions on hemp-derived products, which will hopefully deter those who continue to sell. This bill is one of the 4 that we're watching very closely that will address many loopholes. After years of work to restrict the sale of addictive products to minors, industries who sell products found workarounds to continue to market those dangerous products to youth. They rebrand, reformulate, exploit technical definitions in state law to sell functionality identical products to young people. So the tricks that they're using, and many fall within this industry, is the definitional loopholes, using technology like hemp-derived versus cannabis. Some of these fall under the unregulated realm. So they've introduced new substances. You'll hear more about this as well under the Cradden bill, with no youth protections whatsoever. Deceptive marketing, packaging addictive products like their candy or school supplies, and regulatory gaps, selling to minors before enforcement can catch up. So for these reasons, we support Senate Bill 624. It will strengthen the enforcement ability, and hopefully this will keep distributors and retailers from selling these products to youth. It's really time to get tough on penalties for those establishments that continue to put profits over people. So for these reasons, we ask you to vote to pass on 624. I did want to make a comment too, as far as the personal possession the fines that are in here. We are more concerned about these establishments, making sure they have the fines in place. We would look forward to seeing the amendment as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fry.
Oh, and I'm sorry. I did want to include a resource
Sure.
that I have from Getting It Right from the Start. It's a great California organization that's really tried to address this product within the regulatory market. Oh, thank you.
Thanks again. Kristen Makara. Afternoon. You look like you're bundled up for the incoming snow.
Afternoon, Chair, and other members. My name is Kristen LaFar. I'm the Director of the Doorway Program in Nashville. I'm here today to support the bill regarding hemp-derived products that contain, that contain THC. Natural and synthetic products, which include but are not limited to Delta 8 and Delta 10, are widely available to anyone over the age of 18. I strongly support this bill that seeks to stop sales to individuals under the age of 21 to purchase. It is only a starting point to address the issues around the sales of THC derivatives in general. These derivatives provide the same intoxicating effects that cannabis does, including rapid heart rate, red eyes, dry mouth, increased appetite, and impaired coordination. Psychological symptoms include euphoria, anxiety, paranoia, or in severe cases, hallucinations and acute psychosis. However, there are minimal regulations about the production, potency, and makeup of these products. These products are readily available to the public, putting our communities at risk. They are also put into edibles that look like candy, gummies, brownies, cookies, the types of products that are enticing to people who don't know there's a psychoactive drug, especially children. There are many documented reports across the country to poison control, hospital emergency rooms, and other healthcare agencies for adverse events involving these derivatives. Adverse events include hallucinations, vomiting, tremor, anxiety, dizziness, confusion, and even loss of consciousness. In general, these producers and vendors are seeking to circumvent the New Hampshire laws regarding cannabis sales and profiting from our community's exposure to unregulated drugs. Please consider passing this bill to reduce the ease of ability to access these drugs.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Sue Hamala.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sue Hamola, representing Sam, New Hampshire. I just wanted to underscore Matt Simon's comments that at the federal level, the Farm Bill loophole that is intended to close in November, this coming up, is looking, people are trying to undermine it at every turn, trying to close this, which is more of the reasons why New Hampshire actually should continue to lead the way and act on this. One of the things that hardly gets talked about much is that a lot of the hemp-derived products that are listed as compliant are actually mislabeled. There was a 2024 report by the American Council of Independent Laboratories that found that 69% of the products independently tested exceeded the Delta 9 limits, and 81% of those products exceeded the legal standards when THC and THCA were cumulatively added. The only comment I do have is on Section 2, which is on the bill lines 8 through 9. I would consider adding THCA to that definition with the where you have THC, or I would add THCA in there as well. That would closely mirror the federal language, and it'll also be in line with the bill SB 461 that recently had an amendment to add that to that.
Thank you. Would you believe the amendment catches that? So we're in good shape.
Thank you.
Question, Senator, I'm sorry.
No, I was just trying to signal to maybe pass on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. The Honorable Jerry Nurk.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I do not have any written testimony, which is not my usual. That's because I was not really aware of this until this morning, and I only saw the amendment about 20 minutes ago. And also, I am not here representing the Therapeutic Cannabis Medical Oversight Board because we did not process this bill. It has nothing to do with therapeutic cannabis per se. So we've already talked about the difficulty that came in with the poor wording of the Farm Bill, that was an issue. And the thing that's important to understand is even with the amendment, I think there still is an omission that I'd like to be able to address. If our goal is to regulate intoxicating cannabinoids, just as Sue Hummel just said, we should be adding THCA. And the amendment actually does not do that. Let me clarify the chemistry, because that's what I really came to do, is clarify that. Isomers, which is discussed. I just lost the amendment here. The isomer variants, isomers have the same chemical composition, the same formula, but differences in sometimes some of the binding. There may be a double bond between the carbon compounds and a different area between delta 8 and delta 9. They often have very similar effects. Now, so THCA, which is tetrahydrocannabinolic acid, is not the same. It has the addition of a carboxyl group. Now, that group gradually, that carboxyl gradually comes off with decarboxylation just over time or exposure to light, but it particularly is removed by heat. So if you smoke it or you vape it, it converts, and it's at about an 87% conversion rate, roughly. So that is why the Farm Bill did define the total THC as including THCA. And so, yes, the amendment does put that in on lines 11 through 14. But that is not in lines 28 to 29. It comments about delta 8, delta 9, or any other THC isomer variant. THCA is not an isomer of THC. So this will still be a loophole that people take advantage of. As a result, the language should echo, which is the language that's used on lines 22 to 25, where you have the language about, I'm sorry, is that, yes, where it does have including delta 9 and THCA. I think, again, it should be consistent in all these. It would be any isomer or any THCA, because if THCA is smoked or vaped, it converts to THC, and you're right back to the same problem we had before. So I would suggest, as Sue Homeland just said, adding THCA into line 30, because it is not included by the THC isomer variant language. And so I do support the bill, but I guess I'm actually testifying to support the amendment if it's amended further.
Gotcha. Thank you. Questions? Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you seen the amendment?
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking of, is that the amendment actually, Senator Gannon said that's covered in the amendment when Honorable Sue Homola spoke, but it's not, because again, THCA is not an isomer, so it's not included with that. So that should be added.
Other questions? Nope. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Oshler.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Dr. Kennard.
Yes, thank you.
Can we just, I want to, trying to write down all of the suggestions for the amendment to add in, based on Ms. Holloman's testimony, to add THCA in. And are you saying that it should be added in on line 30
Yes.
in that lineup?
Yes, I think it'd be including delta 8 THC, delta 9 THC, or any other isomer variant, or and including THCA. That would probably solve that. I'm concerned a little bit in the wording up there on 22 to 24, 25. I mean, although it sort of covers it, it doesn't comment about it. Well, it does say all forms of tetrahydrocannabinol, so maybe that does cover that part. It doesn't use the word isomer, but it is saying all forms of tetrahydrocannabinols, so it does cover that.
Yeah, thank you. May I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so on line 23 of the amendment,
Yes.
Is it your opinion that the all forms, I think what I'm looking for is if that paragraph says all forms of tetrahydrocannabinoids, wouldn't that language be better just repeated?
I think, yes, that could be repeated. Yes, that could be repeated for consistency. Okay. All forms of tetrahydrocannabinols, including delta 9 THC and THCA, that would cover that. Okay. Either way, in fact, consistency would be nice. The key is my concern. Kind of remember my undergrad degree was in chemical physics, so this is near and dear to me. Okay. And that is, I don't think the amendment still captures it still leaves a loophole for the THCA and for people under 21. So I think we need to do it. But yeah, you could keep the language different, or you could use the same language, but as long as it says the isomers and THCA.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Other questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 624 who I missed? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. Were you doing 650? Yeah, thank you. Mrs. Malilo, awesome to see you.
You too, sir.
Whenever you're ready, we're ready.
Okay, hi. My name is Tricia Malillo. I'm the Senate Majority Caucus Director, and I'm here for Senator Rochford to introduce SB 650. SB 650 would enable our state's alternative treatment centers to expand their product offerings by utilizing non-intoxicating cannabinoids sourced from federally legal hemp. This is important because medical providers have asked that ATCs offer a broader range of products containing non-intoxicating cannabinoids, such as cannabidiol, commonly known as CBD. Currently, ATCs are required to produce all of the cannabinoids they sell. This is costly and impractical, and it makes little sense given that CBD and other non-intoxicating cannabinoids are widely available at relatively low cost from federally legal sources. SB 650 would not expand or increase access to any form of THC in New Hampshire. It would only enable the ATCs to access non-intoxicating cannabinoids. To ensure patient safety, ATCs would be required to have any hemp-sourced cannabinoids tested by an independent lab before using them to make products. And I can take any questions back to Senator Rochford. I know there are people here to testify as well.
We're all set. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Matt Simon, you're still here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello again. For the record, Matt Simon, Granite Leaf Cannabis. We are in support of SB 650. This is very similar to the bill that was considered last year. Two specific changes came about as a result of comments that were made in this committee last year. The first is that seeds, the previous bill, HB 51, would have removed seeds from the definition of cannabis in RSA 126X. And the senator on this committee suggested that we shouldn't do that. So this bill does not include that version. And I would add that that has proven to be a wise observation because the federal government has changed the definition of hemp in a way that puts seeds into play in a way that they were not before. So this is actually now a legal gray area that seemed like a clear, it seemed like it was clear the DEA was not treating all seeds as hemp regardless of the genetics, and now who knows what they're doing now. So it makes sense for us not to adjust our definition of seeds in RSA 126X. The other change is in the last paragraph there, lines 20 to 23. The concern was raised that synthetic THC, that the ATCs would be able to buy synthetic THC and use it in product. That was never the intention. The language simply mirrored elsewhere in the statute. But in order to make it clear that that's not what we're trying to do and that's not what we would be allowed to do, this version only allows us to buy products derived from hemp which contain natural THC and which we would not be able to buy anything that contains synthetic THC in any formulation and in any amount. So this is something medical providers have asked us to do, offer a broader range of products that include CBD, CBG, that are in some cases non-intoxicating, in some cases less intoxicating. We already offer quite a few of those products. An example would be a fruit chew that is 1 part THC and 1 part CBD. We already make that product, but we have to grow the CBD indoors under high intensity lighting. We could be buying it for pennies on the dollar from a hemp company, having it lab tested and making that product much cheaper for patients. So we would like to offer more of those types of products, and we'd like to make them more affordable. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Senator Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. You heard the great Honorable Jerry Knurk testify in the last bill. He mentioned about THCA and it's like a little scientific, but should that language also be added to lines to 20 to 23? Or would there be any harm in adding it to that?
Yeah, I don't see any harm. We always treat THCA as a form of THC. We always have and would, regardless of what's in the law, but that would not be problematic from my perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions.
Thank you.
Alicia from Greenleaf. I didn't want to say your last name wrong, so I took the shortcut.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Alicia Bennett, and I am in full support of SB 650. I work as the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Granite Leaf Cannabis. For over 5 years, I have performed consultations with patients and given guidance on therapeutic cannabis products. The goal of therapeutic cannabis is to find the optimal therapeutic dose of the most beneficial combination of compounds in cannabis. Here's some more information about the hemp-derived products that the ATCs could offer more readily to New Hampshire patients if this law were to pass. CBD is very well known for its benefits for anxiety, seizures, inflammation, and pain. Though CBD is available through the hemp market, it is unregulated, and many patients get optimal therapeutic benefits with a combination of CBD and THC. CBG is another non-intoxicating cannabinoid in cannabis that has many therapeutic benefits alone and when combined with THC. CBG may help patients with anxiety, ADHD, cancer, depression, pain, and insomnia. CBN is a cannabinoid popular in products for sleep because patients report it is sedating and helps with falling and staying asleep. Like the others I mentioned, many people find CBN with THC is ideal for insomnia. I'm also a patient on our program and have personally experienced the therapeutic benefits of all 3 of these non-intoxicating cannabinoids, and I would love to see them available for purchase more in the dispensaries. With our current regulations, it is not cost-effective for New Hampshire alternative treatment centers to produce these hemp-derived cannabinoids, which has limited the products we have available. Many people benefit from products with THC, and we provide them with a range of options. Shouldn't we be able to affordably and safely do the same for other non-intoxicating cannabinoids like CBD, CBG, and CBN to therapeutic cannabis patients in New Hampshire? Thank you for your time.
Just a quick question. Do you have a background in medicine, pharmaceuticals, or anything?
I have a background in horticulture, Bachelor of Science.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Nope. Senator Evans? No? Okay, thank you very much. Jerry, you still here? Come on down.
Yes, once again, for the record, my name is Jerry Knurk, and I am the chair of the Therapeutic Cannabis Medical Oversight Board. And I serve as the chair of that, and it is composed of 10 medical providers representing different medical specialties, a therapeutic cannabis patient, medical director of the DHHS, and a clinical representative from an ATC. TCMOB does support SB 650, which is very similar to HB 51 from 2025, with the differences that were already pointed out by Matt Simon, and that passed the House in a voice vote, but died on the table in the Senate. Just to, again, go over some of the chemistry. The cannabinoids are the chemical compounds in cannabis that interact with the body's cannabinoid receptors. That results in effects on numerous bodily functions. CBD and many other non-intoxicating cannabinoids do have therapeutic benefit. either singly or used in combination with other cannabinoids, including THC. THC is the best known cannabinoid, but it is intoxicating. Always keep in mind that when we're using cannabis for therapeutic reasons, intoxication is not the goal, but it is instead a troublesome side effect. I always get a laugh out of that when I say that over in the house, HHSEA, but it is, think about if you're 80 years old, you've got pain, you're taking some you're taking some cannabis to help you with your pain, you get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you don't want to be intoxicated, fall over and break your hip. So it's actually a troublesome side effect, and we try to avoid that. So patients need formulations of cannabis that contain non-intoxicating cannabinoids to meet their specific needs. So there's a significant need for CBD and other non-intoxicating cannabinoids to be used in their products that are sold in the ATCs. We've already talked about hemp has that definition of THC below 0.3 with all the nonsense that came on with the bad wording earlier. But the point is that commercial hemp is a good source of CBD and other non-intoxicating cannabinoids, which are legal. And as already stated, ATCs face significant costs in growing their product. They have high security safeguards given the intoxicating nature. Hemp can be grown much more economically because it doesn't require those safeguards. However, ATCs are not allowed to have a federal hemp license, so they have difficulty in obtaining enough non-intoxicating cannabinoids for their products. Then they can't offer as many formulations that are rich in the non-intoxicating cannabinoids. They can't make them for how much it costs to charge, how much they have to charge to sell them. So the bottom line is, this bill would allow ATCs to purchase and use CBD and other hemp-derived non-intoxicating cannabinoids from other producers in the manufacture of their concentrates and cannabis-infused products. Now, as noted on lines 16 to 19, all other products manufactured from the non-intoxicating cannabinoids will be subject to the same stringent requirements for testing for contaminants and cannabinoid profile as is already required for products grown and manufactured by the ATCs. Bottom line is, this is really straightforward free market economics. A producer of any product seeks to find the lowest cost raw materials which still meet their quality standards in order to provide an economical product. However, those limitations I just discussed prevent the ATCs from obtaining high quality, low cost ingredients to use. The ATCs are already heavily regulated, and we should remove this unnecessary barrier which prevents them from obtaining low-cost, non-intoxicating cannabinoids on the free market to use in their products. So this bill would allow ATCs to have more products containing these non-intoxicating cannabinoids available, and the key, at a lower cost for patients. Given the need for these products, this will be beneficial for our patients. Now, I do want to respond. In the next statement I'm going to say, we did not process in TCMOB meeting because it has just come up today, and that is the question of THCA. Should that be included? Because we already discussed that in the end of the bill, lines 20 to 23, again, uses that same phraseology of delta 8, delta 9, or other THC isomer. And again, THCA is not an isomer. However, I don't think we necessarily need to change that here. The reason is that was SB 624 was in reference to the unregulated hemp market. This is a totally different thing. Therapeutic cannabis is highly regulated. The HCCs are already allowed to sell THC at greater than 0.3%. That's the nature of what they can do. And the total cannabinoid profile is always on every label of every product, and it will include the content of THCA. So I think that we probably don't need to add it in here because of the fact that we're dealing with a regulated market that can sell intoxicating cannabinoids as opposed to the unregulated market where we're trying to stop that. And I can take any questions.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. So on lines 14 to 19, is is your testimony or understanding that this will only apply to like CBD and non-intoxicating cannabinoids?
Yes, I mean, that's what it says.
And it will
may acquire and use in the manufacture of concentrates and infused products, CBD and other hemp-derived non-intoxicating cannabinoids. So they can't go just grab a bunch of THC of any form from a outside producer.
Isn't that a cannabis concentrate? Or wouldn't that?
No, a cannabis concentrate would be any kind of cannabis. I mean, a cannabis concentrate could be pure CBD, which is not THC. Remember, there's about 70 different cannabinoids in cannabis. And as was stated earlier by Alicia, there's a lot of interaction between them. They have different effects. And we're still learning a lot about those. And so hopefully there'll be a lot more, if they ever reschedule it as a Schedule 3, as we talked about in SB 400, there'll probably be a lot of good research to get more information about a lot of these other cannabinoids. But they often can be very helpful without having THC or with having a small amount, because there's often a synergistic or entourage effect of THC with other cannabinoids.
That's it. Very good. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 650? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. You got a long one for us. A lot of people. It's in half. Five to go. Bills. No, this week. I think it's 6 total. No. It's gonna be a lot of great. Don't fall on Daryl like I did.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. No samples now. No samples, I hope.
Oh,
I was being
well.
fun. Moving on.
Well,
Senator, tell me about HB 557.
Actually, put that there for a moment. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just grab my testimony here. Great. Okay, thank you, Chairman Gannon, honorable committee members. For the record, my name is Deborah Altschuler. I represent Senate District 24, which includes the towns of Exeter, Greenland, Hampton, Hampton Falls, Northampton, Rye, and Stratham. The Kratom Consumer Protection Act, Senate Bill 557, would prohibit the sale of kratom products to anyone under the age of 21 years and provide the regulation of the sale of kratom products. So I've brought some of these products here today. We've got the very popular 2-ounce Feel Free Classic. This was purchased for $9.99 right down the street here in Concord. I've got a single 7OH 14 milligram tablet. This costs $10. And then we've got a cone filled with candy and kratom. So kratom candy cone, which where's my price tag just came off. But this also, this candy cone was available right down the street and it cost $6. So total cost for all of this is $25.99. I've also provided you a photo of products that I purchased on the seacoast. The K-Fuel Kratom shot, you have a picture in, I think that was just passed out to you. This contained 75 milligrams of Mitragyna speciosa, which costs $9.99, a 2-pack of gummies. And the gummies are a lemon lime flavor, so the flavor of Sprite. And this 2-pack of gummies has a 30 milligrams per gummy. That sells for $3.99. And then the 5-pack here on the left-hand side, that's high potency, what's called 7-OH, 7-hydroxymidragynine, tablets. 40 milligrams per tablet, that costs $40. Total cost $54. So for less than $80, I have a plethora of Kratom products. No questions asked. A teenager with pocket money could purchase the same products just as easily. This is the unregulated Kratom market in New Hampshire today. Senate Bill 557 seeks to change that by establishing common sense consumer protections, raising the purchase age to 21, and bringing oversight to a substance with opioid-like pharmacology that currently operates in a regulatory void. Kratom comes from the leaves of the Mitragyna speciosa, a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia. For generations, workers in Thailand and Malaysia chewed on the fresh leaves for mild stimulant effects during long workdays. What is sold in American convenience stores today bears little resemblance to that traditional use. The active components in Kratom, primarily mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, bind to the same mu opioid receptors in the brain as morphine, oxycodone, and fentanyl. These are not metaphorical similarities. The FDA's public health assessment via structural evaluation, or the PHASE computational model, confirms that kratom alkaloids behave pharmacologically like opioids. Laboratory studies demonstrate that 7-OH is up to 13 times more potent than morphine on a per molecule basis. Modern kratom products sold in the United States frequently contain concentrated or synthetic alkaloids, far exceeding the potency of natural leaf. Recent testing found many commercial products labeled as kratom actually contained elevated levels of 7-hydroxymitragynine, the stuff here, either through concentration process or outright synthesis, creating products that are substantially more dangerous than a traditional kratom leaf. The result is a substance with documented opioid-like effects: analgesia, euphoria, sedation, dependence, and withdrawal, sold without the safeguards applied to every other opioid or opioid-like drug in America. The evidence of harm is mounting rapidly. U.S. poison control centers received 1,690 kratom-related exposure calls in just the first 7 months of 2025, already surpassing the total for 2024. 35% of cases involving 7-OH resulted in severe medical outcomes, including seizures, respiratory distress, and consciousness. EMS data shows that 4,200 kratom-related overdose encounters nationwide from 2023 to 2025, with a statistically significant upward trend. And these are not anecdotal reports. This is documented emergency response. Medical providers, addiction psychiatrists, and treatment programs across New Hampshire and the nation report increasing numbers of patients with kratom dependence. Yesterday, doctors Chun, O'Leary, Willett, and Harker published an op-ed in the New Hampshire Bulletin entitled "Kratom is a widely available drug in New Hampshire and it's not safe for human consumption." You have a copy of their op-ed. Additionally, you were provided today with a letter from Dr. Jillian Snowdon from the New Hampshire Psychiatric Society, who said that restricting kratom sales to those aged 21 or older is a reasonable targeted harm reduction measure. Age limits are familiar and evidence-informed public health tool used for alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis. They don't eliminate access entirely, but they meaningfully reduce early exposure during a critical neurodevelopmental window. So you have a copy of this as well. Withdrawal symptoms from kratom mirror classic opioid withdrawal. Muscle aches, insomnia, severe anxiety, nausea, irritability, and intense cravings. Some individuals report consuming high-potency kratom products multiple times a day and spending hundreds or thousands of dollars per month to sustain their use. One addiction medicine physician described treating patients who began using kratom to self-medicate pain or anxiety, believing the natural or herbal marketing claims, only to find themselves physically dependent within weeks. Unlike FDA-approved medications, there is no standardized dosing, no quality control, no medical supervision. The Drug Enforcement Administration lists kratom as a drug and chemical of concern due to its abuse and dependence potential. The FDA has issued multiple public health advisories warning of addiction, overdose, and death risks. Yet kratom remains readily available in gas stations, smoke shops, and online, often marketed in youth-appealing formats like gummies, chocolates, cones with candy, and flavored beverages. You also have a copy of one of the FDA warning letters to firms marketing products containing 7-OH that was just handed out. Adolescent brains are not fully developed. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for judgment, impulse control, and assessing long-term consequences, continues developing into the mid-20s. This makes young people particularly susceptible to addiction and particularly vulnerable to substances that hijack the brain's reward pathways. Research on kratom use during adolescence demonstrates long-lasting cognitive and behavioral deficits. Currently, there is no federal age restriction on kratom sales. Products are often displayed on open shelves right next to energy drinks. These were in the front of the store in a beautiful glass case that was just a slide open. It was readily available. Marketing frequently emphasizes natural origins, like this one, Feel Free Classic, a plant-based herbal supplement. Products displayed on open shelves, while omitting warnings about dependence, withdrawal, or opioid-like effects. Packaging often mimics mainstream snack foods or supplements, obscuring the pharmacological reality of what is being consumed. New Hampshire already recognizes that certain substances require age restrictions to protect youth. In July of 2020, the state raised the minimum age of purchasing tobacco products and e-cigarettes to 21. The rationale was clear. Nicotine is addictive, adolescent brains are vulnerable, and preventing youth access reduces lifetime addiction rates. The same logic applies with even greater urgency to kratom. If we prohibit 18-year-olds from buying cigarettes due to addiction risk, how can we justify allowing them to purchase products containing opioid receptors sold without medical oversight? Alcohol is restricted to age 21 because of concerns about impaired judgment, developmental harm, and addiction potential. Kratom acts on opioid receptors, the same neural pathways involved in the most devastating addiction crisis in American history. The case for age restrictions is at least as strong, if not stronger. Senate Bill 557 establishes 21 as the minimum purchase age for kratom, placing it in line with alcohol and tobacco policies. This is not radical, it's a consistent science-based policy. SB 557 does not ban kratom. It does not criminalize possession by adults. It does not prevent adults from making their own informed choices about substances they choose to use. What it does is establish basic consumer protections that any responsible market should have. Age restrictions, product standards, bans on synthetic kratom alkaloids and products exceeding specific potency limits, prohibition of combustible or vaporizable forms, child-resistant packaging requirements, clear labeling, including alkaloid content, recommended dosing, and health warnings. Quality controls, heavy metal limits based on U.S. standards, residual solvent restrictions, prohibition of products marketed to youth through candy-like packaging or cartoon imagery, and licensing and enforcement, manufacturer, distributor, and retail licensing requirements, authority for the Department of Health and Human Services to conduct testing, issue fines, and revoke licenses for violations. Revenue from fees and penalties dedicated to program administration. These measures mirror regulations applied to other psychoactive substances and establish accountability where currently none exist. Kratom is often referred to or defended as a natural plant product, as though natural origin confers safety. This argument does not withstand scrutiny. Opium is natural. Tobacco is natural. Deadly nightshade, also natural. The relevant question is not whether something grows in the ground, but what does it do to the human body? Kratom's primary alkaloids act on opioid receptors. This is not disputed. What is sold commercially increasingly involves concentrated or synthetic forms far removed from chewing fresh leaves. The pharmacology is clear. The harms are documented. The regulatory gap is indefensible. The FDA has issued important alerts blocking kratom shipments. It has sent warnings to manufacturers making illegal drug claims. It has published public advisories about kratom's risk. What it has not done, due to jurisdictional and resource constraints apparently, is establish comprehensive oversight of the domestic kratom market. Kratom advocates sometimes argue that federal inaction proves the substance is safe. This is a misreading of the regulatory landscape. So this is where states must act. 16 countries, including Thailand and Malaysia, where kratom grows natively, have classified it as a controlled substance. Multiple US states have enacted regulations or age restrictions. Cities, including Denver, San Diego, and Sarasota, have local prohibitions. In New Hampshire, in September of 2019, Franklin enacted a municipal ban on the sale and possession within their city limits. The trend is toward greater oversight, not less, as evidence of harm accumulates. New Hampshire can join states that have taken proactive steps to protect their residents, or we can wait until the crisis deepens and emergency legislation becomes necessary. I want to be clear about what drives this legislation. This is not about criminalizing adults who choose to use kratom. It's not a moral judgment. This is about preventing preventable harm, especially to young people whose developing brains make them uniquely vulnerable to addiction. Some individuals report using kratom for pain management or to reduce the use of prescription opioids, and I do not dismiss those accounts. Kratom works for some people, but anecdotal reports of benefit do not negate documented risks or justify the absence of medical oversight or warrant unrestricted youth access. If kratom has legitimate therapeutic applications, the appropriate pathway is FDA review, clinical trials, and approval as a regulated medication with standardized dosing and quality controls. What we have instead is an unregulated market where products of wildly varying potency and purity are sold with misleading labels to anyone with pocket change. Adults who choose to use kratom can continue to do so under this bill. What they cannot do is purchase products containing synthetic alkaloids, exceed specified potency limits, or sell to minors. These are reasonable restrictions that balance individual liberty with personal health responsibility. We know from experience that delaying action on emerging drug threats allow preventable harm to accumulate. Synthetic cannabinoids, bath salts, fentanyl analogs, each time we've waited too long to establish regulatory frameworks and people suffered. Senate Bill 557 offers a measured, evidence-based response. It protects youth, it establishes product standards, and creates licensing and enforcement mechanisms. It aligns policy with pharmacological reality. I urge this committee to recommend Senate Bill 557 ought to pass. Thank you very much. And there are a lot of people here to testify.
Senator Abbas has a question for you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. If this substance, kratom,
yes,
is similar to an opioid, at least has similar effects, why would we want to license anyone to sell it through retail?
What is similar is the way the mu opioid receptors in the brain bind to the elements of kratom. So there are addictive qualities to kratom. However, it is not regulated as a controlled substance in the United States yet. We have FDA warnings and we have some action that the FDA has taken, but the federal government has not gone so far as to schedule it, which gives us the opportunity here in New Hampshire to at least regulate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm just going to follow
please.
similar with that. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Appreciate very much so for under 21. I have a drug that's harmful as far as I can tell. It's like an opioid. You told me all these terrible things it can do. Why wouldn't I just take 21 out and nobody can buy it?
So I'm not suggesting that right now. We have a product that is available in the United States that has demonstrated some anecdotal benefits to people. And what I would hope we would do was take that anecdotal evidence and move it forward to create a regulatory structure that would help make products like this more effective in communicating the harm and the good it can do. Right now, we don't have any of that. And so I'm not suggesting that we take something that could help people away. What I am suggesting is that we recognize that it is what it is, how it behaves in the body, and acknowledge it does have addictive qualities, and not expose people under 21 or make it harder for people under 21 to get to.
I'm good. I think we're all set.
Thank you
for your testimony. Walter Gallman. If you could put your button on first, would be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Walker Gallman, and I'm the Legislative Director for the Global Kratom Coalition. The GKC is an alliance of consumers, researchers, public health advocates, and responsible industry leaders committed to protecting and expanding access to kratom globally. We are dedicated to advancing consumer safety through scientifically grounded regulatory policy, increased transparency, and public health education. GKC advocates for a regulatory framework that distinguishes natural leaf kratom from synthetic or chemically manipulated derivatives, prohibits the marketing of kratom products to minors, and ensures that products sold in the marketplace are properly labeled, age-restricted, and safe for consumption. Furthermore, we believe that the prohibitions on concentrated synthetic 7-OH or 7-hydroxymitragynine are a crucial aspect of consumer protection. However, the GKC opposes SB 557 unless amended. While there are a number of small technical corrections we'd like to see made to this proposal, of particular concern is the inclusion of language that would prohibit kratom from being combined with a psychoactive substance. This language is incredibly broad and implies that all psychoactive substances are dangerous. However, there are numerous innocuous substances that are psychoactive, including sugar, caffeine, and many botanicals that are sold widely in New Hampshire. None of these things viewed on their own are considered harmful or dangerous, and nor should they be when combined with kratom. Furthermore, there are a number of provisions in the bill that directly address product safety. These provisions include the prohibition of products containing harmful substances, limits on residual solvents, prohibitions on synthetics, and limitations on product delivery methods like vaping. Additionally, we also have concerns with the child-resistant packaging language found in the bill. For context, kratom is considered a dietary supplement. However, dietary supplements aren't held to the poisoning control packaging standard. None of the products on the market currently have this kind of packaging, which would create an unnecessary burden for manufacturers to switch over all of their packaging specifically for New Hampshire. Furthermore, the bill restricts products to those over 21 and includes labeling requirements that should inform consumers of any risks associated with the product, including keeping it away from minors. There is not a signal that we are aware of that suggests children are inadvertently consuming kratom products. I'd also like to provide some background on this subject matter in general. Specifically, natural kratom leaf is a botanical from Southeast Asia with centuries of safe traditional use that's grown in popularity in recent years. Today, according to a study from the University of Florida, 23.9 million people in the U.S. report consuming natural kratom leaf for its functional benefits. Due to the widespread use of natural kratom leaf, its safety profile is backed by centuries of safe traditional use, with at least 50 years of use in the U.S. and decades of science supporting its safety, including an FDA clinical trial in 2024, which showed natural kratom leaf is tolerable in humans, even in servings up to 6 times that which is commonly consumed in the U.S. During that trial, the only adverse event seen was some light nausea, and that was in the control group as well. When you eat that much plant matter and fiber in that short of a period of time, you're going to feel a little bit nauseous. As the science on natural kratom has advanced, it has become overwhelmingly clear consumers should not be prevented from accessing this natural botanical. However, we need to also acknowledge that not all kratom is equal.
Graham, if you could not read, just summarize. I know you know your material well. I can tell you don't need your notes.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
In light of us getting out of here at a good hour.
So the takeaway here is when you look at the kratom market, the concern you should be addressing is for first-time kratom consumers. When you walk into a store, and Senator Altschiller alluded to this, there are a lot of products out there, and many of them are highly concentrated and synthetic, but they're still calling themselves kratom in often cases. Even the cones she had, those are not kratom. Those are concentrated synthetic 7-OH products, which are astronomically different from kratom. When you look at the kratom plant itself, it's made up of over 40 alkaloids, and that's about 20% of the total plant matter. And you've got 40% is fiber, and then the other 20% are antioxidants. So when you look at these 40 alkaloids, Dr. Chris McCurdy, University of Florida, describes it as a symphony orchestra. These work in harmony together to give the plant its effects, along with the fiber and the antioxidants, which works to further mitigate the effects of those plants. As soon as you isolate, extract, and synthesize and concentrate alkaloids like 7-OH, which are a pure opioid, 13 times more potent than morphine, that's where you start to get into trouble. When you look at what's in kratom itself, there is trace amounts of 7-OH that are formed as an oxidative byproduct during the drying process. In the actual leaf, it's about 0.004%, so it's not even pharmacologically relevant. I also mentioned earlier that FDA itself conducted a clinical study with human patients that found it was not harmful even when consumed in large doses. That's one of 18 different clinical studies that are available today and hundreds of other studies that have been conducted over the recent years. I think what's also important is if you look back to July of 2025, FDA, DEA, and HHS held a joint press conference in which they announced that FDA was referring specifically concentrated synthetic 7-OH to DEA to be scheduled as a Schedule I narcotic. At the same time, they made abundantly clear in that press conference that they were not targeting natural leaf kratom and that they were specifically targeting concentrated synthetic 7-OH and not intending to sweep up the trace amounts of 7-OH found in kratom. They even went as far as to bring out a kratom leaf advocate to share her story about how kratom has helped her and her concerns around the concentrated 7-OH products. So in general, we are very much supportive of regulation. We feel this industry has been infiltrated by bad actors who are seeking to take advantage of those who are looking for something. There are people who mostly use this as a coffee substitute, a pre-workout. As the senator referenced earlier, there are some people who will use it for pain management. Most of these products, or natural products, typically are not marketed as something for medical use because they aren't a medical device. They are a dietary supplement, meant to supplement the diet. Much like if you look at other dietary supplements like ashwagandha, for example, that's often taken to treat anxiety, but it's not prescribed for anxiety and it's not a drug used to treat anxiety. It's a dietary supplement, and that is an anecdotal use that people find for them. And I, applaud people who get benefit from that, but that's not its intended use. So when we look at kratom, like I said, FDA has made exceedingly clear that their focus is not on natural leaf kratom. FDA Commissioner Marty McCary has made that abundantly clear in many press conferences and interviews over and over again. In fact, back in 2016, FDA actually looked at scheduling leaf kratom and went through that process. And as part of that process, you have to do what's called an 8-factor analysis. That 8-factor analysis determines whether or not something is deserving of being scheduled. When it came to natural leaf kratom, they found that it was not, and they could not definitively prove that kratom was harmful. The same conclusion was reached by the World Health Organization when they also looked at scheduling kratom. That's why these latest actions are focused on concentrated synthetic 7-OH. Even mentioned in the Trump administration's MAHA report is concerns around 7-OH. And as recently as 2 weeks ago, in a press conference in the White House, Commissioner McCary also brought up concerns around 7-OH while still making clear that kratom was not the target. So in closing, we urge the legislature to amend this legislation, like I said, with concerns around the poison control packaging and the language about adding psychoactive ingredients. And we would like to see regulations put in the state and protect consumers. Because like I said, the goal here is if you are a first-time kratom consumer and you walk into a store, the idea should be that you should be able to look at a product, know with confidence what is in it, and be able to distinguish it from these synthetic products, which should be prohibited. As like I said earlier, the federal government's currently in the process of looking to schedule those products specifically. Thank you for your time, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Senator Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. Is kratom in its natural form addictive?
So it is somewhat addictive. The addiction profile in terms of the actual effects are similar to if you had a caffeine addiction. It's a lot more prevalent. So I would say you had 100 people drink caffeine, 8 might get addicted to it. If you had 100 people take kratom, 16 might get addicted to it. But in terms of withdrawal, it's similar to coming down from a caffeine addiction. You might get some sniffles and some headaches, but it's not going to be the same kind of debilitating withdrawal you get from an opioid or morphine or something like that.
Well, on kratom in its natural form, can you overdose on it?
There's no known amount that would cause an overdose. I'd also like to note that kratom in its natural form is not intoxicating and it does not get you high.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Aldershaw.
Thank you, Chairman Gannon, and thank you for taking my question. I'm sorry, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm sorry we weren't able
Absolutely.
to connect, and I appreciate your knowledge on this and working with us to find a regulatory structure that benefits everyone. What I think, based on what my colleague was asking you, it's to the best of my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, kratom in its natural state, the leaves. I haven't been able to find it sold in its natural state. Everywhere I have looked for kratom, it's in a product that is mixed with other things.
If you take the Feel Free, for example,
yes.
What that is a pineapple juice, and in it is crushed kratom leaf. If you drink it, you can actually taste and feel the leaf, and for the record, kratom tastes terrible. And then the other substance in there is kava, which is also an approved dietary supplement. So there's nothing in that bottle specifically that's inherently dangerous or harmful. And that product, as far as I'm aware, has its own safety studies that can speak to that safety profile as well.
Right, so this is the closest we can get to the natural leaf. The natural leaf isn't sold anywhere that I'm aware of.
I'm not familiar with the New Hampshire market specifically, but I can say everywhere else I've been, typically if you go to many stores, they'll sell actually the bags of leaf. You'll get products like that where it's in some kind of liquid, but it is still the leaf. You've got the capsules, which are full of crushed leaf. When you look at the synthetic products, those are typically the tablets. The cone you had earlier was a 7-OH product.
Yeah.
All the ones, there's one brand, for example, called Smurfs, where they are blue and shaped like Smurfs. It's typically those synthetic and highly concentrated products that are having this kind of marketing where they're either making medical claims or trying to appeal to children.
Thank you. May I follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. So with respect to the product you just mentioned and to the product that I presented in my testimony, the gummies, right, that are flavored and designed to look attractive to children, right? Is there, I don't think there's any daylight between us in that this should not be available
Well, with the
to
gummies,
children or marketed towards children.
absolutely agree. With the gummies, though, I would be supportive of removing the flavoring, but for many dietary supplements, a gummy is a very common form of delivery for dietary supplements.
Oh, yeah. But
It's not
follow up?
it's not possible.
So when I buy dietary supplements in the form of gummies with, for collagen, right? And it's a square. It's not, it's a gummy. It's easier to chew, but it's not in the shape of
Absolutely.
a Smurf or a cartoon character to make it more appealing to take my collagen. So would there be any resistance from your organization about keeping some references to keeping child-proof packaging and
Well, the child-proof packaging, like I said, there's no other dietary supplement that has to adhere to that. I mean, even if you look at a can of beer, it's the same as that can of Coke, and there's no more child resistance to that than there is any other product. And this is a far different product than something that's intoxicating like alcohol. In terms of the gummies, like I said, I am completely for, prohibiting things that are, got the fruity, or all the extra flavors to them, or mimicking other candies or cartoon characters or the bright colors and things that would be appealing to children. We are absolutely on the same page there.
Thank you.
Senator Abbas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have any other states that you're aware of adopted a comprehensive policy on kratom?
Yes, so currently there are 18 states that have comprehensive regulations on kratom. I would say the gold standard is probably the state of Nebraska. They include a product registry, the appropriate restrictions on marketing to children, product limitations like potency caps on concentrated synthetic 7-OH, and there are many states that do this right.
Is there any other than Nebraska? So I might take a look at a couple of them. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'd say Nebraska has some pretty good laws. Georgia has some decent laws. Colorado has good laws. There are many states out there, and they're all fairly similar with some different variations to them. Some have much more enforcement built in, and from my perspective, a piece of legislation is only as good as the enforcement that follows. So I think you need to have strong enforcement in there and strong deterrence for those who would seek to violate the provisions of the bill.
And just one last follow-up. Is this product ever, it's not prescribed by doctors, but it's not really recommended for children. Why, why be opposed to child-resistant packaging?
Well, it's not a drug, first of all, so no doctor would prescribe it. Anecdotally, a doctor could say, I went to my doctor the other day and I've been having some stress, and he said, well, you should maybe try ashwagandha. He wasn't prescribing it, he was recommending it because anecdotally that does help. For kratom, same thing. I guess mentioned earlier, there are people who will take it for pain. That's not what it's marketing for. That's not where the science is necessarily, but they found success in it, and that's why some folks do choose to use it. But primarily, it's used for energy and focus. It's been for sale in the United States since the late 70s when you had soldiers serving in Vietnam who began consuming the product in country over there and brought it back to the United States with them. And you're only hearing about it now in 2026 because of these concentrated synthetic products that have hit the market and begun to cause all these problems. It's not natural kratom that's the issue. It's what people are doing to natural kratom and the products that they're bastardizing and creating these hyper-potent and addictive products that are far different than what is actually kratom.
Last one.
But what I'm asking is, and I understand the synthetic the synthetic formula that's going out there is the problem. That's the Smurfs packaging. And I understand that, my colleague, that's your primary concern. In the natural form, I'm just asking, what is the fact that it can be addicting and not really, I don't know anyone that would recommend it for children, at least from what I've heard today so far. Why oppose that having any type of packaging restriction on there?
Well, like I said, it creates a whole new burden for the industry when there are no restrictions like that anywhere else in the country right now. And in terms of dietary supplements, there's no other dietary supplement that's subject to that sort of packaging requirement.
Go ahead, one more.
But they have it for Tylenol, right?
But Tylenol is not a dietary supplement. It is a drug. It's not a drug that's prescribed and you can buy it on the aisle, but it is still a drug that's been approved by FDA. Dietary supplements do not go through FDA approval like that.
I'll give it last.
But by your testimony and responding to questions, people are using it for pain management. They're using it as a dietary supplement. I understand it's not classified that, but if they're using in that manner, what is the harm? I understand the industry burden that you're talking about, but I'm surprised they're not doing that anyway.
I'm not sure I understand your question, Senator.
Well, you testified that people are using it for pain relief, which they're using it as if it's a dietary supplement. So
Well, dietary supplements wouldn't be used for pain relief. What I'm saying is it is a dietary supplement, but because like with many dietary supplements, there's anecdotal uses for things like anxiety or pain or whatever remedy you want to discuss. But those dietary supplements aren't intended to treat those ailments. But there are people who will use them for that because they have found success. But that is not what they're marketed for. That is not what they are intended for.
Thank you.
It's like taking bath salts. You know, you weren't meant to consume those as a human, but people chose to.
We're good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Kaylee McGlynn. So Kaylee, since we got another hard bill after this with a lot of testimony, try not to read, and because I know you always know your stuff, and that'll be it. And we're going to try to keep everything to 3 minutes. So if you can be watching it, give or take.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair and the members of the committee. Kaylee McGlynn, again, for the record, I will keep my testimony very short today. I've done the literature review and research on kratom as its form and it's being used. And so while the contents of SB 557 aim to create an age limit for kratom use and purchase restrictions, this bill alters emerging data warning about the public and the dangers of kratom. I think this bill is uninformed and it fails to recognize the true effects of unregulated substances. Again, this has been mentioned previously, but while kratom is not scheduled, it is labeled by the Drug Enforcement Administration as a chemical of concern. I believe in evidence-based research impacting our decisions in legislature. And so while this enforces an age restriction of 21, it still happens to send a message to those who are in establishments where kratom is sold that the state approves of this drug for over 21. And there has been numerous peer-reviewed articles and clinical trials showing that there is a biological component to this that is dangerous, and the unregulated component is even more concerning. So I think that this bill kind of misses the mark on the true message of drug prevention. Mental health and substance use is a crisis so many Granite Staters face every day. And I just feel like this bill misses the mark and doesn't truly encapsulate what we should be doing with this drug, which would be eliminating it from unregulated sale. And that concludes my testimony. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, have a great day. Graham Rigby.
Mr. Chairman, committee, my name is Graham Rigby. I'm a resident of New Hampshire. I live in Keene, and I serve as the CEO of the American Herbal Products Association, one of the leading herbal and natural products dietary supplement trade associations. We've examined the legislation with an eye towards avoiding consumer confusion, providing consumer protection, and avoiding potentially redundant requirements in the bill. And at the outset, my comments are going to be limited to Section 318B53, kratom and kratom product limitations. I think it's been covered that kratom has traditionally been used not only as a leaf, but as a tea. And there's a section in Part 1, paragraph A, that bans the sale of kratom products that are labeled as conventional foods or beverages. It's foreseeable, given the historic use and the traditional use of kratom tea, that some authorities may find specific food uses of kratom generally recognized as safe, which is the standard which an ingredient would go into the food supply. And we therefore ask that the prohibition be qualified with unless kratom as used in such a form that has achieved generally recognized as safe status. And the only piece I'll add is it is correct that Thailand used to regulate kratom as a narcotic, but in 2021, they actually reclassified it as safe to add to food and beverages, leading to the idea that that could happen in the US as well someday. Secondly, the ban on kratom products containing other ingredients has no clear basis and is in conflict with other state laws mentioned previously in testimony that sort of govern and regulate kratom. If there's a particular formulation of concern, such as products containing deliberately added synthetic 7-OH, then it might make sense to address them specifically versus having this widespread ban of adding kratom to any other ingredients, which is very commonplace in the dietary supplement marketplace. On the childproof packaging provision, we believe that the ban on childlike gummies and other form factors, sufficiently, and the age gating and restriction of products being sold only to 21 plus, is sort of two ways at, basically eliminating any potential child use. And so we would also, say that industry basically having a greatly increased packaging cost while there's already these other provisions within the bill that basically seek to prevent child use, makes it redundant. Lastly, there are several warning statements within the proposed bill. There are slight differences in state-to-state bills, again, of the 18 state bills. What we would encourage is the inclusion of this language, but the provision that the labeling convey the intended message versus having all of the specific language. You could imagine one product having 18 states specific language being an incredibly long label. And so we definitely agree with the spirit of the message, but again, propose that it go to conveying the intended message versus exactly having all of the language. One of the pieces of language at actually paragraph L, subparagraph 5, that is actually the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act requirement for structure function claims or health claims. That is, the FDA has not reviewed or evaluated this claim. That's a specific requirement when you make a health claim on a dietary supplement, and we think that's confusing to have that listed on products that make no such claim. We would suggest that it be removed because it will be on there if a kratom product does make a health claim. And then lastly, it is not standard practice to label the total amount of mitragynine or 7-hydroxymitragynine on a product compared with the amount per serving. That's very rare. Think about, you don't see sort of, how much caffeine is in, an entire bag of coffee. You might see how much is in per serving. And so what we would recommend that what's listed on the package reflects per serving so that it doesn't create consumer confusion, thinking that they're going to get a much higher dose than they otherwise would per serving. And with that, I thank you, and I'm open for any questions.
Nope. Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Alexandra McGlynn. Oh, you're not speaking on this one. Okay. Is it Justin Agraz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'll make this quick because I know a lot of people have spoken. A lot of people have already said exactly what I came here to say. My name is Officer Agraz. I am a member of the Merrimack Police Department. I run our prevention, enforcement, and treatment program, which means my job specific in the Merrimack Police Department is to work with anybody actively in addiction and to work to educate the community and our officer on current drug trends. So this is kind of the world that I work in. There's a lot of concern around kratom. The way that it reacts in the human body, we've heard that it targets the opioid receptors, much like an opioid would. That's a lot of concern when it comes to our youth because kratom develops tolerances just like an opioid would. So while we heard earlier that this stuff can be bought with pocket change for a teenager, right? As that addiction grows and tolerances grow, that ability to buy with pocket change is going to fade out, right? It becomes more and more expensive, which has the potential to lead to seeking stronger drugs that are cheaper on the street, right? That's a big concern that we have with our kids. I know it's been said multiple times. The FDA has issued numerous public health concerns. The DEA has said this is a drug concern. The CDC has kratom linked to 91 deaths between 2016 and 2017. And more recent data shows that it was present in thousands of toxicology screenings. Try not to read this because I want to be quick here, but as of August 1st, 2025, kratom was illegal in 7 states, and several more have regulations and controlling the sale of kratom. While I personally believe that kratom should be made illegal in the state of New Hampshire as a totality, I think this bill is a step in the right direction. I think regulating the sale of kratom, which is an easily abused and highly addictive alkaloid, is the minimum that we need to be doing to protect our juveniles.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
No questions. Thank you. Kristen McCara.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
No papers, no anything. I'm happy with you.
No, because I'm going to be very short.
Great.
I can, yes. There you go. So I just kind of want to reiterate what's been talked about in terms of the dependence potential and, you know, leading into other more serious, more illicit substances. And anecdotally, I'm a practicing clinician, mental health counselor, and licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and seeing people under the influence is pretty wild, climbing walls, and it is very addictive, very scary, and the clients that I've worked with have said it's more difficult to get off than opiates themselves. I would love to see it banned all the way across.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Senator Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. When you say banned, are you talking about all kratom or just the synthetic?
All kratom.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you mean for all ages?
I do mean for all ages.
Making
Absolutely.
Making crystal clear. Thank you. Kate Fry.
Hello again. I'll be very brief because the senator did an excellent job of describing the issue and the product. I had all sorts of pictures, but I don't need that now. We are New Future absolutely in support of SB 557. What I defined earlier as industries and companies going after our young people, this industry is doing exactly that with all of the tactics of a definitional loophole, unregulated products, deceptive marketing, and regulatory gaps. And New Hampshire should not allow that with our youth, and really from what it sounds like with adults as well. So we really urge you to do something on this issue, and we support SB 557.
Thank you very much. Sue Homola.
Hi, for the record, Sue Hamola from Sam, New Hampshire. Sam thanks Senator Altschuler for trying to keep kratom out of the hands of children, but this bill doesn't go far enough. There are, as we've discussed very briefly, there are 2 elements to kratom. There's mitragynine, and then there's the 7-OH is the synthetic version. The natural plant part of it can be synthetically converted into a higher concentrate, so that the fact that it's natural has nothing to do with safety. Kratom is banned in 33 countries, most of Europe. As we've discussed, there's 7 states that codify kratom as a controlled substance, and there's 6 of them that call it Schedule 1. Very interestingly, the American Kratom Association is actually the organization that's been pushing for the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. It's been pushing this actually in states all across the U.S. this year. Although this is the intention of this bill is to keep kratom out of the hands of children, it's actually a de facto kratom legalization bill. One of the concerns that we have in here is because it includes 708 and some regulations on how to limit that, but it does not actually include a mitragynine ban on that. That quote, natural substance is actually just as dangerous as 708. it actually converts into a stronger opioid inside the body, and the metabolism process is quite complex, and it's actually being researched right now in the medical community. It has resulted in fatal toxicity in users, and then there have been quite a few noteworthy deaths due to mitragynine. The Journal of Addictive Medicine in 2025 attributed 551 deaths that were confirmed kratom mitragynine exposures. The problem with kratom is it actually can cause tachycardia, and when it is combined with other substances, it becomes quite dangerous. There is a lot of legal action happening right now on the kratom front, so any state that actually decides to legalize it in any form could be facing some liabilities. There's a family of a 39-year-old woman who was awarded $11 million in damages after she died as a result of a kratom consumption in Florida. All the information that I'm kind of just throwing at you right now, there's a lot more in the electronic version of my testimony that I've emailed to you. Although the FDA does recommend adding 7-OH to be moved to Schedule 1 and it omits mitragynine, SAM National is actually advocating at the federal level. That is a huge oversight, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed. Another thing to keep in mind, too, is that Kratom in the News is just recently in October 2025, a 29-year-old American chess master, Daniel Navratilsky, died unexpectedly from a drug overdose, and he had kratom along with other substances in his system. When it is combined with other things, it can be quite deadly. And as far as any health benefits that go along with kratom, this is my final thought, is that this should be studied at the FDA level, not experimented on gas station customers. And I'd take any questions if you have any.
Senator
Yes,
Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it, Brooks? We just got this handout.
That was not for me. Yeah.
Too late.
Very good. Thank you. Renee King.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Renee King. I'm a board certified family nurse practitioner. I'm the director of nursing at an inpatient medical detox here in New Hampshire. I'm here in support of this bill. 1 year ago, I would treat patients with kratom dependency and withdrawal kratom. The frequency, the severity has rapidly changed. Kratom acts on the opioid receptor. We keep talking about how it's a supplement. Pharmacologically, it's a drug. Pharmacodynamically, it's a drug. Legally, it's a supplement. I'll just put that there. At higher doses, it produces dependency and withdrawal syndrome that includes anxiety, insomnia, gastrointestinal distress, autonomic dysfunction, such as tachycardia, hypertension. Our patients require medical management similar to opioid withdrawal. This was becoming so common that in July of 2025, I created a specific kratom detox withdrawal management policy with buprenorphine and clonidine tapers. The problem is not only with the drug itself, it's that kratom is completely unregulated. Patients often cannot tell us what they're taking, how much they are taking, or what else may be in the product. The potencies vary wildly. Some products are labeled as the 7-OH or enhanced, and patients are reporting that these products are significantly stronger than what they used to be. So why not just ban 7-OH? Because they're going to create an isotope, right? Those people who should be medical toxicologists, they're not. They're working for kratom, and they're going to switch the molecule, find the loophole, and now we're only targeting 7-OH when they've created a new drug off of kratom. Kratom is widely marketed as natural and safe. And because of that, many people, especially our young people, do not believe it can cause dependency and withdrawal. I want to be very clear about what this looks like clinically. Last month, I treated a 19-year-old patient with intravenous fentanyl use disorder. When we took a detailed history, She reported that her first exposure to an opioid-like substance was kratom at the age of 14. She had been using kratom daily. She became dependent, tolerant, dependent, addicted, too expensive, turned to fentanyl. She didn't know that it acted like an opioid. She believes that it was safe and natural supplement, and she purchased it legally. In another case, I diagnosed a patient with arsenic toxicity. And after extensive evaluation, the source was unregulated kratom. She buys it in this big bag of powder, and she just scoops the powder into her water. There's no labeling, no quality control, no warning to the consumer. This bill actually does have the heavy metal regulations in it as well. Last spring, I treated a patient who readmits with known severe alcohol use disorder. His withdrawal clinical course, however, did not go as expected. He experienced severe tremors, autonomic instability, and required an extended inpatient stay in order to stabilize. His urine results came back positive for kratom, which he didn't initially disclose. And when I asked him about this, he reported that he didn't disclose it because he didn't know it was a drug. He took it because someone had suggested that he try it in order to reduce his alcohol intake. If you'd like to know how he is doing now, you can read his obituary. He died last August. This bill does not ban kratom. It introduces age restrictions and basic regulations. From a medical standpoint, it's a harm reduction measure. We're already too late. As a nurse practitioner, I'm telling you what is happening. I see it every day. I'm asking you to consider a bill that's about consumer protection and youth safety. This bill protects our community and our future generations. It's a start. It's somewhere to start.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. So if I know this, maybe it's a matter of different opinions, but in your professional capacity, you have to treat patients who are inpatient.
Correct.
For
Every day.
withdrawals from kratom.
Correct. Every day. In New Hampshire.
Without getting into any, I'm not asking for any specific patient information, but are those patients using the synthetic Smurf stuff or the natural?
Well, it's mostly 7-OH is what we've seen a big increase in. But the problem is you develop that the tolerance of the kratom, then you go to something stronger and something stronger. We're finding anecdotally, right? Because we don't have research. This is not researched enough. But anecdotally, what I am seeing is that people are developing that the dependence, and then the tolerance. And then they have to go to 7-OH just to not get sick, not even to get high anymore.
So if someone is using the kratom in its natural form, in that scenario, would they still suffer the withdrawal symptoms? But
it's possible. It depends. It depends on how often, how long. Other comorbidities would also complicate their withdrawal. If they were genetically predisposed for addiction, yeah, I'd say for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your testimony. Amanda Rainier.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amanda. I live here in Bedford, New Hampshire. I was put on pain medicine at the age of 9 years old. I live with 10 out of 20 of the most painful conditions to live with, trigeminal neuralgia being one that's also known as the suicide disease. I have been on pain medicine, like I said, since the age of 9. They've put me on a slew of different medications, trying to find one that works, ones that don't work, between anxiety, depression, pain medication, blood pressure medication, and it's just been a nightmare. I've been in the hands of the pain clinic the whole time. I was disabled, stuck in bed, not able to get out of bed. My mom died in the hands of the pain clinic. She took less medication than what she was prescribed. I found kratom about a decade ago. I've been taking it for almost 9 years this May. I have also taken extracts. I have taken many breaks. I have absolutely no withdrawals from either one. I just deal with my normal pain symptoms and maybe like a little sniffly nose. In the almost 9 years that I've been using kratom, I've come off of blood pressure medication, anxiety and depression medication, as well as pain medication. That's over 50,000 pharmaceuticals that I have not had to consume in almost 9 years. In that time, my liver was failing. I had a slew of health conditions. I was 100 pounds heavier. I was bedridden. I was not able to do 3 of my professions, which is hairdresser, dental assistant, and a teacher. I couldn't do any of them. Now I am able to get out of bed. I am able to come here and talk to you guys. I am completely all in my faculties. I have no impairment. It does not mess me up. Most thing, if you take too much, whether it be kratom and or an extract, it has a ceiling effect. You're going to get what we call like a wobbles, almost like when people drink too much alcohol, they see the blurry vision, you're going to puke. That's it. There's been, talks of deaths with kratom, but there's been a lot of other things in their system. There was also a man who was shot and killed by a gunshot, and that was labeled as a death of kratom. So I'm asking you to please follow the science. Please regulate it. That is key. I don't believe that it should be in a gas station. They have no business selling it there. You can find it in smoke shops, which you have to be 21 plus in order to go in there to buy anything anyways. So I believe regulation is key. Taking this away, I would not be alive today without it. I was heading down death's row. I've got my blood work every year. I've had organ scans. I've been under the care of a doctor this entire time, and I am now reversing the damage that 30 years of pharmaceuticals did for me. My body is pharmaceutical resistant. If I don't have a plain natural plant that I can go have access to, like turmeric, it helps. It's a dietary supplement, but it also helps with inflammation. This helps me. I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to be stuck in bed. I was able to go see my son graduate not only high school, but as well as college. And without that, I would not have been able to do that without kratom. So I'm asking you to regulate it. 21 plus is key. Get rid of the stupid names, and make sure, if anybody I think is going to be selling it in a smoke shop, they need to have proper education. But this plant is life-saving. There's billions of people using it, and people aren't dying strictly from either the extract and the plain leaf. I appreciate your time. Do you have any questions?
Take a question. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. So I presume you're not opposed to any type of ban on the kratom
No.
in its natural form.
Yeah, I don't want to ban on any of it.
No, even with the synthetic.
Even the synthetics, because a ban on that stops all studies. It's been scientifically proven that it does help. They are studying it right now to turn it into a pharmaceutical. You put a ban on something, that stops all studies on it. I think it should be regulated. There's also, I think it was like a 1% is what you guys had it for like the found naturally in the kratom leaf. I think the Kratom Consumer Protection Act had moved it to a 2%, and that would have a small percentage of extracts as well that falls under that, but it's a very, very low percentage.
Oh, and thank you for taking my follow-up question. So, but is there my colleague has something that who knows where, I'm not going to ask where you got it from, but.
I got it at the convenience store across from McDonald's.
All right.
On the street.
Yeah, those are all extracts, yeah.
So, but is there I guess this is a 14 milligram tablet. It says 2 servings, even though it's 1 tablet. All that aside, I'm just asking, is there any milligram amount per dose that you would put a limitation on? I mean,
on the extract, I've seen tablets that you can split in 4s. I don't know all of their dosing. It will say, this you can only have, take a 4th a tablet, and that is however many milligrams it is per thing. And that's on the person to break it and take that 4th. That's what it's labeled as. That's on them. It's just like giving someone a prescription bottle saying, take, 1 pill 3 times a day, and trusting them to do the same thing with their prescription medication. So it's about accountability, I think, when it comes to following what dosing is on whatever package is on. I know that they've all varied in different milligrams. I can't speak on all of them. I can only speak on what I've used myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your testimony.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Jennifer Mercier.
I know you don't love papers, but can I give you guys some handouts? I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold and have a baby pressing into my lungs. Okay, so I had a whole speech prepared, but I got kind of sidetracked with everybody's topics. So my name is Jennifer Mercier. I'm a New Hampshire business owner, a tax-paying New Hampshire business owner, and I'm actually a small batch vendor that sells pure, natural kratom leaf, which is either a powder or it's a leaf. It's not an extract. And I do, there's a couple things that I would love to see added to this bill. I'm in great support of regulation. Any vendor doing it correct will be in support of this bill. So I would love to see that it's pulled out of gas stations. Gas stations should not sell it. Absolutely. Any gas station first business, out of there. My pipe dream is that there's like almost like a safe serve to sell kratom, so people have proper education. We have a whole harm reduction on our site going into the potentials of abuse, which you will see that Johns Hopkins has done a study. It's less than 10% of people get physically dependent. And I want to mention that before I was ever a vendor, I was a consumer and an advocate. I had several surgeries and was in debilitating pain. And I had a stint with pharmaceuticals when I was younger, and it ravaged my body. So when I had these surgeries 12 years later, I refused all pharmaceuticals and lived in chronic pain. I found kratom through my clinical herbalist husband, and I used it for as long as I needed it. And when I didn't need it, I stopped taking it. So long before that this was my livelihood, this was still my passion, because I think consenting adults have a right to really live the way that they want and treat their pain the way. And if I would have known about the cannabis bills, I probably would have spoken on those too, even though cannabis is not something that I personally use. So the childproof bags. So I think all extracts should be childproof containers. I understand that it's an industry. It's not cost effective. The thing, when every time childproof got brought up, I just thought of our little craft bags. And I don't think I can get, because it comes in a powder or leaf form, you're not getting jars, you're not getting tincture bottles. You can't really, I don't know that they make childproof bags. If they did, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all by any means. There are people who said that it's not studied. There's been over 450 scientific studies. Johns Hopkins has done a ton. There's a lot of doctors. I usually send out, which I haven't had a chance. I found out about this last night, and obviously have some other stuff happening. So, but there's, Dr. Jack Henningfield, Dr. Kirsten Smith, Dr. Christopher McCurdy. We have a doctor that I believe is signed up to speak after me who also supports this bill. At a federal level, there's been a clear differentiation between, extracts and synthetics and natural whole leaf, and they're not going after whole leaf. When they tried to schedule it, this was the first time in DEA history that they have ever retracted because it did not hit the 8-factor analysis. Somebody mentioned arsenic poisoning. I mean, we test for heavy metals, microbes, alkaloid content, there's batch numbers, there is traceability, there's a 2-stage clean room. Like, people are doing this right. We heavily regulate ourselves because nobody is regulating us. And I would love to just be able to go to the state. I tried to get a food license and they refused because I sold kratom along with all my other stuff, soaps and salves and other herbal products. What the data consistently shows is that the greatest risk comes from manipulated products and lack of education. People don't know. People don't, there is a ceiling effect, and it is, this beautiful symphony of alkaloids, but when left unchecked, the people that are the loudest are the people that struggle, right? The people that are using this responsibly, they're not following politics because they're just like, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not having any problems. Why? I don't even understand what's happening. So those people don't show up to these things because they don't know. The people that do are the ones that have run into problems, who were looking for an escape to some degree, and that, addicts, I love that people can use this to get off opioids, but then again, that tends to be the loudest population, whereas us herbalists and holistic practitioners and people that are using it for chronic pain, mood stabilization, and all that, they see no reason to speak out because it's working just fine for them. And they have no idea any bans are happening or any regulation is happening. I would love to, I have cancer patients and chronic pain patients and PTSD patients. I have a retired police officer. I have so many patients that I hear from daily telling me, thank you. And then I have seen the damage that bans, because I ship all over the country, And I've seen the damage bands do, the heartbreaking emails that they send me when they can't get their medicine. Sorry. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question.
Thank you.
So I think I understand your testimony correctly. You're an advocate for the natural form, the
Correct.
whole leaf. But the synthetic formula,
I think it should be studied. I don't think it should be in gas stations. I don't think it should be at the store. I don't think there's proper testing requirements for it. I think there's a whole lot of alkaloid composition that we're not aware of how it works. And I don't think it should be on the shelf. I'm kind of the same way with any plant medicine. Leave Mother Nature alone, and it will protect itself. When you start tampering with things, that's when stuff really goes haywire.
if and I'm not saying this is what we're going to do, but
Yeah.
if we were to keep the leaf in its natural form for sale as
right
as it's going now, but ban all the synthetic sales in the state, would that be something you would be opposed to?
I would not be opposed. That's perfect. Amazing. I would love to see, honestly, I think anything to protect the whole leaf at this point. This is what it all boils down to, regardless of what compounds and stuff is made after the fact. It's the natural leaf where it all came from, and we need to protect Mother Nature and the people who use the powder, and that, they're drinking a crushed leaf tea. They're not, they're not downing shots or tablets that they don't know what's in it. And I would really, until we do know what all that stuff's in it, I am in full support of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're all set. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is it Coin Stanku? Yes. How do you say your first name?
Cornell.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon. So I'm Dr. Cornell Stanchu. I'm a quadruple boarded physician with my primary specialty being in addiction medicine. I'm an assistant professor at Dartmouth, but I'm here representing myself in my own personal professional opinion. I am in full support of SB 557. And I've been involved in kratom research for the last 12 years and have contributed to much of the literature that was mentioned earlier, documenting the clinical impact of kratom on individuals with mental health, substance use, or no conditions. As we have established, kratom is a plant that's been used for many, many, many years, centuries in Southeast Asia with no documented adverse effects. However, we're just now starting to see toxicities and adverse effects related to the products that are available and are drastically different from the plant itself. From my clinical standpoint, I see both sides of the coin. So I have patients who have benefited from kratom. They're able to manage their conditions, avoid opioid regimens, but then at the same time, also individuals who suffer harms, develop addiction, and require treatment for it. The only difference is the individuals that are able to use kratom in a therapeutic way are you getting it from a vendor that does third-party testing. It's more of the powder, the ground leaf material, as opposed to those that are experiencing harm where they're gravitating towards the concentrated products. As a little bit of a background, the market has evolved in 3 waves. When I first started looking into it in 2008, it was primarily raw leaf material that was sold, and individuals were mixing it in water or doing the swish and toss method. Second wave was started around 2014. That's when solvent-based extracts started to come, and manufacturers started to take advantage of those 7-OH concentrations. And the third wave, which is the one we're currently in, that's when we're seeing highly concentrated, lab-modified, synthetically made either 7-OH or something that hasn't been mentioned, mitragynil, pseudoindoxil, and that's the products that are most similar to fentanyl and other opioids. So overall, I'm very pleased to see the provisions in this bill. Compared to other legislative efforts in other states, this is probably the strongest one that I'm aware of. Definitely balances the risk and benefits. I do have some suggestions to further strengthen the recommendations in this bill. One of them would be to include a research provision. for synthetic and semi-synthetic products. So for example, if myself at Dartmouth, I am to decide to conduct a clinical study, I should be able to utilize and leverage those products to better learn about them. The second is regarding labeling. As currently written, the label notes interaction with prescribed medications, but nothing is being mentioned about illicit or alcohol, so I would include that as well. Second, labeling, I would also add consult with a healthcare provider if they are currently using kratom. The current wording is if they plan to start using. And lastly, I wanted to mention, I heard a lot of talk about synthetic here. And what we're really discussing with 708, and it's not included in there, is semi-synthetic, because 708 is not synthetic, it's semi-synthetic. It's found in the plant. So when you take mitragynine and you make it into 708 in a lab, that's semi-synthetic. When you take other alkaloids and you manipulate it in the lab to mitragynine, pseudoindoxyl, that's synthetic. So I would like to see this semi-synthetic wording being used. So overall, with these small additions, I think it would really enhance consumer safety and make this probably the strongest bill on kratom that we have in our nation. Thank you for your time.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my testimony. In your experience with kratom, whether in natural form or synthetic form, is it possible to overdose on substance?
So I've actually published a study on the overdose risk related to kratom. And in its natural form, one would have to consume tremendous amount of leaves to even develop a toxicity. It would be pretty impossible to get that. And to ingest that many leaves is just not possible. In the current synthetic and semi-synthetic forms, absolutely. There are 7-OH, mitragynine, pseudoindoxyl are far more potent than morphine and even fentanyl. So it would be possible. That's why we need regulation.
And from an overdose, could the overdose lead to death?
So in its natural form.
In the synthetic form, because I overdosing on, an opioid is pretty clear. It slows the breathing down to the point that the person dies.
So in its natural form, the first sign of toxicity would be more of a stimulant-like seizure. So not what we see with opioid-like overdoses where you get respiratory depression. With the current products, they resemble more opioids. Yes, you would get the respiratory depression.
Thank you.
Senator Osler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Stanchu, for your testimony and coming here today from Dartmouth. I'm curious, could you extrapolate a little bit more on your suggestion to insert an amendment that includes research provisions?
So in the event that someone were to undertake a clinical study under the regulatory body of an IRB, it should be allowed to have access to synthetic and semi-synthetic products for studying in that controlled condition.
Senator Abbas, one more.
Just taking some notes, and we appreciate some of your expertise on this. You mentioned that semi-synthetic, and that's when they have the leaf in its natural form. Are you familiar with how difficult is the process to do that with? Because you see, let's just say you have the natural leaves, and it's not enough that you could consume the natural form and overdose it by simply eating the leaves or drink whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
But if that was made synthetic or semi-synthetic, would that increase the amount of active ingredients?
So what that would do is increase the potency. Because as it was said earlier, 7-hydroxy, which is the one we're concerned about, is present in something like 0.03% of the leaf. But through extraction method, you take a great amount of leaves and you extract just that from all of them. And you really, really concentrate it into tablets that contain just that.
So just to clarify, the kratom's not being enhanced in any way to then make the synthetic or semi-synthetic. They're extracting a high concentration amount of it.
You could enhance it as well. You could take it through a different process where you take nitrogenine from the kratom leaf and you oxidize it to 7-hydroxynitrogenine and then compound it into a concentrated form.
And you mentioned that you published an article of this or a medical journal on this. Can you forward that to the committee?
Sure, I can send all my publications on kratom.
Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Okay. Danielle, is it Nelusin? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Neslusin. Along with my business partner, Eric Bolter, I am in the process of opening a kava bar in Manchester, New Hampshire. Kava is a beverage made from the roots of the kava plant. It's been enjoyed for hundreds of years in the South Pacific Islands where the plant is grown. It's enjoyed typically for its effects, including relaxation and sociability. I won't go too much into kava in the interest of time. But when Eric and I decided to open a kava bar or look into it, I knew almost nothing about kratom at that time. And doing the research, we found that roughly 85% of American kava bars serve both kava and kratom. The kratom there is served as a tea made from the natural plant. So still unsure of that. We did lots of research into it ourselves and have found that there are lots of reasons to support the natural plants and serving it as a tea like they do there. So I'm largely in support of this bill and in favor of regulation. And similar, knowing my own experience, I feel like education is the key to all of this. And, legally that means labeling and regulation. So given that I'm trying to open a kava bar, I'm all in favor of support for age restriction and clear labeling, I think is the most important thing. I would agree with the gentleman who spoke before saying we'd like a provision for tea to be allowed as well, because the tea that's served at these kava bars and that we plan to sell is made from the natural plant itself and brewed just the way any other tea would be brewed. That's all, unless you have questions.
No, I think we're all set. Thank you very much. Eric Boltar?
Almost.
Boltar.
Hi, my name's Eric Bolter, Londonderry, New Hampshire. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'll be short and brief. I'd say the most concerning thing I've heard here today really is just the overuse of the term kratom. And I've heard professionals in the mental health field and other people today talking about people overdosing and dying and crawling on walls, and they're saying that's kratom. I want to present a simple metaphor, right? So we like coffee, right? I like drinking coffee. Do you? Right. So there's a way to extract caffeine from coffee, correct? And in extracting caffeine from coffee, you could make a very potent caffeine pills, and there's many out there. Well, people take a caffeine pill and have an issue, and then they turn around and say, coffee's bad. That's what's happening here, literally, is people are putting the synthetics and semi-synthetics in the same category as Mitragina speciosa, the whole leaf plant. That is a beautiful plant medicine for so many people. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have seen, and by the way, I'm in long-term recovery, clean and sober since 2010. I have seen plenty of people come off of benzodiazepines, opiates, and use the whole leaf kratom as a medicine for themselves. And so to ban it completely is to take away the right of autonomy in people, personal choice to what works for them, and to say that, the synthetics and semi-synthetics are quote unquote kratom is like saying that caffeine pills is coffee. And that makes absolutely no sense. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. All set. Thank you. Sean Canizaro.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Sean Canizaro. I'm the owner of Hope to Freedom Recovery Homes in Claremont, New Hampshire. It's safe, structured, affordable, state-certified recovery housing, and we help anybody looking to get clean and sober from substances. And I want to tell you a story about a guy named Paul. I do want to mention I do appreciate the education I've learned today from the couple gentlemen that spoke before me, because I wasn't aware of that. I just know this story here. This gentleman called my recovery home looking for a bed. We did an interview, we accepted him, and he comes here and he's doing great. You know, we help him start a business. He helps us with the recovery homes. He's clean and sober for 18 months, and he helps out tons of people in that first 18 months. He relapses, ends up back in treatment. We pick him up out of the gutter, basically, and we bring him to a detox. And then we bring him back after a month or so to my recovery home. And another 18 months pass by. And we started 12-step meetings together. He got to know my puppies. Well, one puppy at the time, and another lady in the recovery home had a puppy. And he ended up overdosing and dying, right? So the only information I had on this guy was in Dartmouth-Hitchcock database, and it was linked to Hope to Freedom Recovery Home. So a social worker who dug a little deeper than what she was getting paid for reached out to me and said, hey, if this is your guy, you need to come here now because he's overdosed and he's probably not going to make it throughout the night. So we go up there, my girlfriend and I become the healthcare proxy. He's already overdosed, he dies. They have a hero's walk, we donate organs. I have a puppy named after this guy, and I inherit all of the stuff that goes along with someone overdosing and dying. Now I have his vehicle. I have to go retrieve his vehicle through the police and with a tow truck to the place that he overdosed. And what happened was I found hundreds of packages, some of them labeled Kratom. I don't know if it was the pure leaf form or not. They look like the tablets. I go to his apartment, I have to empty everything out and bring it all back to my recovery home and figure it out. And I find hundreds and hundreds of what I'll call gas station packages. And some of them said Kratom. Some of them had other things, the Smurf things, you know. And now my second puppy is named Lewis, named after Paul Lewis. And this right here is Paul, because I had to have him cremated. And I like to make an impact on what I do, because he went from using that gas station, whatever we want to call it, Kratom, synthetics, whatever the label is, to that not working enough, to one time getting a package of fentanyl and overdosing and dying. We are in the process of starting a nonprofit sober club to help people in recovery. Congratulations on your recovery, my man. You know, and again, I don't have enough information on the leaf. If something works, then so be it. Right? But I am in favor of regulation, because my friend Paul kept going back to the same freaking gas station and spending his entire paycheck on what he thought was Kratom. And like I said, if something works, then fine. But I am begging to, you know, regulate, do a law, call it Pauly's Law, whatever we can do. And I do want to read this. We donated 4 organs, so Pauly still lives on in 4 different people right now, amongst the other recovery home residents. During that Heroes Walk, there was 35 of my residents there. Previous residents, the nurses, you know, just the staff. It was a beautiful thing. And they made us these cards with a picture of them. And it says, if God ever needed an extension of heaven, he would choose you to build it. He was a contractor. Thank you for teaching us all how to be more kind and gentle to one another. Judge, which is the first dog I was talking about, Elvis is my puppy. I have a new baby brother from the same parents. His name is Lewis, after Paul Lewis. So the gas station stuff is what got him hooked again. I highly doubt it was a natural leaf, because I didn't find anything showing that. So thank you for your time. I appreciate everyone who spoke and testified. I appreciate your display. Thank you, Senator. Yeah, I'm open for any type of questions.
You're good. Thank you for coming in.
I'm so
today.
sorry
Appreciate
for
it.
your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I miss anybody, or does someone want to speak on 557? Come back down. Okay, sounds great. Now I got one more to go.
Don't worry, I'll keep this brief. I'm sure you guys want to get home before like 2027. My name is Marissa McGlynn. I'm saddened that as a 16-year-old, I feel compelled to speak out against this bill. Nobody knows what the youth goes through better than the youth themselves. I've been through high school. I'm a full-time college student right now. I've seen every aspect of it. So I want to address a few things that were stated before. First, I'm against this bill because I don't think that we should have to settle for less in New Hampshire and say that just because it's better than what we have right now doesn't mean that this one has to go through. I'd like to see us fight for more. I'd like to see us follow through on protecting our youth in the Granite State and further producing high quality adults who know the consequences of these substances. I'd like to just say the most concerning thing that I heard today was the multiple deaths, the multiple overdoses, and the multiple addicts that had to go through this related to kratom. I wouldn't say that kratom is the most concerning use for it that I've seen today. Pain meds and opioids, I'd like to say that those go through extensive testing, and this does not. So you can use this for your pain. You can say it helps your pain. That's up for interpretation. That's the same as me saying or an addict saying that using that specific substance, this could be heroin, fentanyl, meth, that helps their pain. That's how a lot of people become addicts. If we left Mother Nature to take care of us and didn't do anything with what she produces, I could go outside and eat poisonous berries right now. So some things have to be manipulated. We can't just eat branches off of a tree and say that it's helping my pain. So I hope that this bill doesn't pass, because as someone who sees the use in our youth and seen it daily in these organizations that I go to school, I really hope that you guys can prioritize community wellness over overall profit. Thank you.
I'll ask you a quick question. So what legislation would you like to see?
I'm inexpedient to legislate.
Okay, thank you. You were going to finish up for me. Come on down.
Thank you so much for allowing me time to speak today. My name is Leah Kaufman. I'm the Vice President of Public Policy for Shatterproof. Shatterproof is a national nonprofit dedicated to addressing the addiction crisis. We have been working on enacting common sense policies focused on protecting youth from synthetic drugs for the last year. I'm going to try and skip over some of the things that you all have already heard. You already heard from Senator Altschiller, Dr. Stan Chu about kratom's origins and the primary alkaloids of concern. I'm going to focus my testimony on national regulatory trends and why SB 557's approach appropriately targets the real public health risks. You heard about the fact that 7 states have already made kratom illegal, 6 of them through scheduling. There are an additional 24 states that have adopted partial or comprehensive regulatory frameworks. I'm happy to send more information on those later if you would like more. Municipalities have begun to ban this, including several in New Hampshire, from what I understand. And multiple states are currently considering legislation this year on regulating kratom or scheduling it. So I want to cover what this bill gets right first. Shatterproof has put together a youth protection framework related to synthetic drugs. I'll distribute that when I'm finished. So there are some common things that we know based on the literature are effective in protecting young people. This bill sets a minimum age of 21 and requires government-issued ID verification. It requires kratom products to be kept behind the counter. It mimics youth appealing and candy mimicking packaging. Prohibits those. It bans synthetic forms, including 7-OH, and it establishes alkaloid limits based on milligrams of active compound per dry material. I don't know if we'll have time for that, but I'm happy to send more information on that. We have, because we've looked at this across all 50 states and the District of Columbia, we know what's been proven more effective. So we'll get back to alkaloid limits and why they matter. I wanted to address really quickly serving limits and dose safety. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. The scientific evidence on kratom dosing remains incredibly limited. I believe Dr. Stanchu is going to send you some of the studies that I'm referencing here. Because kratom is not FDA approved, there's no established safe dose. A recent comprehensive review underscores the need for regulatory caution. That said, the largest controlled human study to date administered natural leaf doses, delivering up to approximately 53 milligrams of mitragynine per dose without serious adverse events. That's not definitive. It's one study. It was a fairly small sample size. But we do, looking at this bill and where the current limit is, we recommend lowering the per serving mitragynine limit to 53 milligrams, which would put it in line with the existing human data, acknowledging that there are a lot of uncertainties still. A couple minutes on enforcement and deterrence. SB 557 provides critical enforcement tools. This is another thing that's incredibly important because it can look good on paper. There are a lot of states right now, Utah being one of them, that have really comprehensive regulations on paper. And in practice, the enforcement, the teeth just aren't there. So I thought this did a good job of several things. So authorizing to seize or embargo non-compliant products is important. Giving rulemaking authority to the department so that they can react to emerging substances and other protections that need to be put into place. So we strongly support all of those provisions, including the license revocation after a third violation. I thought that was really important. We encourage the committee to consider whether the proposed civil penalties, currently $1,000 for a first offense or $2,000 for a second, are sufficient to deter bad actors. Particularly, we see a lot of multi-state groups who see those sorts of fines as the cost of doing business. I think there are just a couple of things from folks who spoke before me. I did want to mention we've had a lot of debate today over whether this is a nutritional supplement or a drug. It does act on the same opioid receptors as things like morphine. And importantly, I think one of the clinicians pointed out, if there is a kratom overdose, you can use naloxone to reverse that. And one of the clinicians pointed out that she was treating patients with buprenorphine. So there are 3 FDA-approved medications that treat opioid use disorder, and that is one of them. I think that speaks to the psychoactive properties of these substances. And then I think the last point I wanted to make, the per package and per serving, from a youth protection standpoint, looking at other substances like cannabis products or even nicotine or caffeine. So I mentioned caffeine earlier. It makes sense to have a per package limit. We can send, again, that's a state by state report that shows what limits are established already. Yeah, with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman, for taking my question. In your testimony, you just at the very end of your testimony mentioned that of the states that do have either that have bans or regulations in place, that there is a per serving or per package recommendation in those states. Do you have that you could share with the committee at some point?
I'm happy to share what we have with the committee. What I actually have is a cautionary tale of what not to do. Most of the states that are currently regulating an amount of kratom are doing it by total alkaloids. So I can share the Utah example if we have a couple minutes, but I know we're being sensitive to time. So the Utah currently has a cap of no more than 2% of 7-OH. Unfortunately, as we heard earlier, there are over 50 alkaloids in kratom. So you have mitragynine, which is about 66%, and then 7-hydroxymitragynine, which is under 2%, and then you have everything else. So when states like Utah and most others who are doing this put that cap on, it's a blunt and misleading tool because mitragynine may account for roughly 2/3 of alkaloid contents, while 7-OH is presenting in these lower natural levels. But the two products with the same total alkaloid percentage can differ by more than 100-fold in 7-OH content. So a high mitragynine, low 7-OH leaf, and a low mitragynine, high 7-OH extract could appear identical under that. And I have a whole bunch more that I will not subject you to, me just reading to you, but happy to send later. But the reason that you need to have a total milligram cap by percent of dry weight would align with how we regulate nicotine and caffeine.
Your follow-up?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you just say how would it align with how we regulate nicotine and caffeine? What
By
was that?
looking at
What?
the percentage of the substance by dry weight.
Dry, you said by dry weight.
It allows you to standardize it. I don't know if I'm a Utah example. Okay, so limiting by milligrams of specific alkaloids per dry material normalizes the moisture variability, allows comparisons across product forms, and converts directly to absolute consumer exposure. So the way someone explained this to me, because I'm obviously not a pharmacologist or a clinician, is when you regulate by the total alkaloids, that would be like regulating alcohol by total liquid volume instead of by ethanol content. So when you do it the way that we're regulating nicotine or even cannabis by dry weight, by the percent of the alkaloid, you're able to meaningfully measure the risk. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
Seeing no other questions?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 557? Seeing none, we'll end the hearing. Little sheet, give me a little sheet. You have the other one? Yeah. Is Rep. Sullivan here? Good, I'll just go. Okay.
It's good for the soul.
Tell us who you are and your district. I'm opening the hearing for HP 186. Welcome,
change
Senator
this thing?
Sullivan.
I get to change those things on my committee. My name is Jared Sullivan. I'm the representative of Grafton District 2, which includes the towns of Franconia and Bethlehem. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the committee for having me here today to hear HB 186, which recently passed out of the House. I've been here before. We all know this. We've all talked about cannabis legalization in the state for years, well before I was involved in politics. And I am pretty proud of this bill. This bill, we've already voted on the language of legalization. That's in this bill. We voted on it out of the House last year. We voted on this in 2024 when you guys passed something and we didn't get it out of the House. It was the exact same legalization wording for the legalization part, so I don't need to revisit that because I literally lifted it out of that bill. I think what makes this bill good and what makes me proud of this bill is that this gives a really good framework for how we would regulate the sale of cannabis and cannabis products in the state. It starts off not using a liquor-based model, but rather a private free market-based system. If we were to start legalizing, we would have a commission of 15 people who would be appointed by the governor and approved by the executive council, and they would be the ones creating all the rulemaking that's going to be necessary around the regulation of cannabis. There's some basic regulations, of course, in here, but obviously there's going to be more rulemaking like there is with anything that we attempt to regulate. I think, you know, with respect to revenue, one of the nice features here is that this actually keeps New Hampshire in line with our lower tax burden reputation. We have an 8.5% room and meals tax here, and this will now become the room, meals, and cannabis tax. And so that would be considerably more favorable than our neighboring states. So Maine is at 14%, and Vermont and Massachusetts are approximately 20%. So I think like we do with our lower liquor sales or liquor costs here, we would likely steal business from our neighboring states and help drive revenue on that front. I think those are kind of the biggest issues in here. This is a thick bill, you know, 30, 40 pages long here, but it would be a good source of revenue eventually. It would take a little while to get there because we'd have to ramp up things. We have nice safeguards against concentration of the industry. That was one of my concerns in the bill that did not pass, and we all know the drama from that back in 2024, where there was only 15 licenses. This would allow for a lot of licenses, but nobody could have more than a certain percentage of the market. So there wouldn't be a concentration of one individual sort of hijacking everything to keep it open and a free market and not sort of consolidated. I would just sort of say, I understand that this is not a popular idea among many members, but I would say that it is a very popular idea among most people in this state. The most recent poll that I was able to find was 70% of people in the state want it legalized, including 55% of Republicans. And so I think it's time that we do the work that the people want us to do and fall in line with what most places in this country are now doing. Even the president has moved in the direction of decriminalizing this substance. So with that, I will take questions, but it's an election year. Let's think about what our constituents want and hopefully consider this with an open mind. I know there's been past struggles on this, but this is a really good bill. And if you do choose to consider it, I would love to work with you on, you know, certain aspects of it if you have objections with certain parts of it. So I hope that you take it seriously and think about this bill, because I think this is actually a really good way to regulate cannabis and legalize how we sell it.
With your free market system, I'm just thinking, my friend Senator Abbas's district and Salem, all the people coming up, would the concentration of businesses in one area be limited, or would the governor's council look into that that's going to get appointed? I don't want 20 shops in a row making a mile, marijuana mile.
You know, nobody wants marijuana mile. I would say there is no limits to what could be in a specific town. I think that the free market would sort of just decide where that would be. I think places along the border, if it was a better regulatory environment in our state compared to say Massachusetts, in that case, if we're talking about Salem specifically, you might see more stores than you would in perhaps Manchester, concentrated, because maybe they would be trying to appeal to the people coming over the border. But it would all depend on the quality of the products that they're selling, because it is a little different than alcohol in the sense that alcohol is the same products that get cheap over here.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Gavin. Thank you for taking my question. In reading through your bill, I want to make sure that I understand how this would roll out at the municipal level. And the way I read it, and I'm referring to page 19, really page 20, it just introduced on 19 on line 37, and then moving on to page 20. This would provide enabling legislation for a municipality, similar to the way we did Keno, where a municipality would have to vote to allow for cannabis shops in their town. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and
But it wouldn't cap the number of licenses once they approved.
I'm sorry, it wouldn't,
I don't, yeah, my understanding of the way we intended this to anyways would be, if we go back to Senator Abbas's example with Salem, if Salem approved the sales, yes, I know it didn't come from you. If Salem were to approve the sale of cannabis in their city, they wouldn't be like one person gets a license. We were trying to avoid that because suddenly those licenses become like taxi cab medallions or something like that, where they become a value in itself. So once a town approves it, there wouldn't be a cap on the number of facilities that could operate within that municipality.
may I follow up? Did you say, and I'm so sorry, did you say there would not be a cap or there would be a cap
There would
on
be,
how many could be operating in the town?
yes, a town could not set a cap. And the reason
cannot.
They cannot. And the reason being that opens the door to corruption of lobbying the select board or the mayor or whoever it might be to say, once I have my store, I don't want any competition. So there would be no cap on the number, any more than there's a cap on the number of restaurants in a town. Or
Do you
Thank
think
you.
that would be a problem? So here I am in my little town of Sandown, and they say, sure, we can have one.
What town? What town are you
Well,
in?
it doesn't matter.
Oh.
We'll just say Plastow or somewhere. And you're, again, now you're gonna have all the people coming up from Massachusetts. They let one shop in. Now there could be, it would be like store after store after store with, again, the mile of drug sales on.
So there's other ways to get around it if they were concerned about that, right? So, you know.
I think they're gonna be. In Salem, Plastow, all the border states. Seabrook would be another one.
Sure,
They have
yeah.
problems with-
So the way I think that you would handle that if you were concerned about that at the municipality is you have zoning regulations, right? So right now, if you have residential areas or you have industrial areas or whatever they might be, you wouldn't have a bunch of restaurants popping up in those areas. You still have to go through that process. And so you can definitely regulate things through zoning, but to the extent that a commercial activity is allowed in a specific area, if those areas would allow cannabis, you couldn't just say only one cannabis store in that area.
Good. Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So think of it this way, if you have a marijuana mile, right? We're talking different retail stores, they're using their property for its intended use, which is a retail location, that's what it's zoned for. And if you have 30 of them in a row, 20 of them in a row, there's no limitation. Any concerns on how, and this is no fault of the cannabis industry, but how those have a negative impact on real estate values? When you pick a town like, since my colleague picked Salem, where it's known for its retail being along the border, perhaps having unintended consequences on real estate values?
I guess my question for you is, are you worried about them going up or are you worried about them going down?
Yeah,
You may respond.
and I can explain it in further detail. A lot of commercial leases you'll see, they sometimes in shopping malls or strip malls, they'll ask for restrictions that you won't lease to certain types of tenants, which is not fair to the other tenant. They're acting within the law, but some tenants will simply not want to go there. If you ever look at some shopping centers, certain businesses tend to navigate together. Or you'll see some retail cannabis stores south of the border. A lot of them are in freestanding buildings, if you notice. So the concern is that has a devaluation on real estate if you have commercial property. It just tends to do that. Only exceptions to that research is when it's in inside the major part of a city where all the high rises are. Tends not to have the same impact because it's. So I'm just asking, do you have concerns by not having any limitation? You say free market, it's a good buzzword, but any concerns on how that impacts all the other businesses around that also bring tons of revenue to the state?
I would say that if you have a commercial owner who doesn't want those leases in there, they can certainly do that. I mean, there shouldn't be regulations on if you own a strip mall or you own a mall. I'm not saying that the town can force you to lease to anything just because it's legalized. Like that's still, whatever it is that you think is the best idea for your property. So if you own a strip mall and it's leased to a bunch of, I don't know, other types of retail shops, and they're concerned about it, and if I was owning that building, I wouldn't want somebody to be putting in a cannabis shop if all my other tenants were saying we don't want that here. So I think the free market does take care of that. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of concern about like the marijuana mile. I don't know. I think part of the reason why you see marijuana miles pop up is because something's not available somewhere else. And so you might see it, like Elliott, Maine is often the example I hear, but you don't see it everywhere. I mean, it might happen in some places, but I don't think that would be a particular big concern. With respect to I'm still struggling with your question. Are you just worried that somebody is going to open up a marijuana store and the property nearby is going to become less valuable?
I can rephrase it. I was wondering if you had any concerns about how having several retail cannabis shops in a community how that would have an impact on the property values of the surrounding properties.
I mean, I would say if they're going in there and the other properties are not wanting to be there. I mean, if it's a vacant lot and now there's commercial activity going there, that would help, I would think. If it was displacing something, maybe that's the argument you're trying to make, or the question you're having is if it's displacing something, like a popular restaurant is now closed down and a marijuana shop opens up. But I don't know that a commercial facility would boot out a successful other business just so that they can sell marijuana there, particularly if it's a successful business in its place.
Well, that's good. Question on a different subject, since I'm not sure if you understand the question I was asking before. In respect to the taxation, it basically is an expansion of the rooms and meals tax. But this is the first time we're really going to apply it to a retail product. Any concerns that sets the precedence for, a retail sales tax?
I mean, I think you've already applied it to food. I mean, that's essentially a retail product as well, right? If I go to a sub shop and buy food to go, that's I'm not sitting there and having it served to me. I'm literally buying a pizza to go or a sub to go. That's essentially a sales tax. We can call it whatever we want. So that's my response to that. As far as a precedent, like, we need to debate those. If you think that we shouldn't have a sales tax, and I'm not advocating for a sales tax, if you think that a sales tax on clothing is a bad idea, or on cars is a bad idea, or on appliances is a bad idea, then if somebody presents it, then fight it. I mean, what you're saying is this is like a slippery slope. That's sort of the argument you're trying to make, and slippery slopes suggest that we have an ability to predict the future. And I think it's a kind of a logical fallacy to go after that argument on this. So am I concerned about a precedent? No, I'm not. I think this is a unique product, and I think New Hampshire's existed without a sales tax for as long as I've been alive, and I don't think that this is creeping towards that, nor is that the intention of it. It's a way to collect revenue on a product. That's it.
Sure. I'm just asking if you're concerned about when you expand the tax to cover now a retail product, specifically meant for retail sale. I'm not talking about restaurants, food, all that. That's kind of in this narrow area. Now you're expanding it. I mean, there's a tax on tobacco, on certain forms of tobacco too. I get it. But are there concerns about expanding the rooms and meals tax specifically? That kind of opens the door for something down the road.
No, I don't think it does. I think cannabis is a unique product, and if that's the concern in the bill, then we can address it, and you could figure out a different way to do it. But I think the idea that this is going to open the door to taxing our clothing or other things is a bit of a jump. I don't think there's many people pushing for that in this state.
You good?
Good. Thank you.
Senator Elsher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. So I want to go back in this discussion to the zoning, right? The municipal zoning, and if I just want to talk this out and interrupt me and tell me if I have not read this correctly. So if a town says, yes, we would like, that they vote and say at their town meeting and say, yes, we would like to invite cannabis locations to our town. There's no cap on how many can come in, but there are spaces for the town to create zoning to, to create their own, not cap, but restrictions on where. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in the same way that you wouldn't have in a residential neighborhood a factory popping up.
Gotcha.
Or a store popping up. It would be similar to that. If you have a location on a downtown, in Bethlehem, for example, if we were to legalize it, I don't know if you've been there, but we have sort of the main drag and that's it. There's not really commercial activity outside of that area. Certainly if the Dollar General closes down, a cannabis facility could go in there, and then if another building closed, another store closed down, another one could go in there, because that would be an appropriate place for it, but you wouldn't be able to create, I suddenly open one up out of my house or something, or try to turn my basement into a shop, because that wouldn't be legal under the current zoning codes.
May I follow up? Thank you. So finally, with respect to, I think we, had a question earlier about property values and, would it necessarily increase or decrease property values, or would it hamper further investment from other businesses? Would you look to perhaps, was the city of Seabrook considered, for instance, because Seabrook offers a product that is not offered across the border. There's fireworks everywhere. It's firework mile. And subsequently, that area of firework mile is completely developed. So it brought in more business. Was that something considered? Is that what we were kind of getting at earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think the senator, I don't know, and he can correct me, but I think the senator was concerned about it negatively impacting property nearby. I generally don't know if those arguments hold up well. When I've looked, and to be honest, I haven't looked at how cannabis legalization, and this would actually be an interesting, I'm a real estate economist, so I could actually try to go dive into this, but it would be interesting to look at how legalization has led to changes in property values in places where it's been implemented. I have never looked at that. That would actually be an interesting question, which I hadn't thought of until this hearing. My experience in the industry, I will say, oftentimes fears about detrimental impacts on property taxes, on property values, are generally misguided. When people make these arguments, it's like a fear, and it generally doesn't show out. Doesn't mean you can't find an anecdote where it does happen, but on average, when we change zoning to be more densive and more permissive of more things, your property becomes more valuable. So if we're worried about property values, which this bill is not designed to promote or harm property values anyway, but if we're worried about property values, generally what the literature, I believe, shows, and it's been a while since I looked at it, is that when we have more permissive regulations or freer regulations on use of property, then those properties are generally more valuable, not less. And so this would be moving in that direction if it followed the general path of what we've seen in the literature on this topic.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
All right, thank you, guys.
Sue Hamala, I think you're going to close up shop for us.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll make this brief. Sue Hamola, representing Sam, New Hampshire. What I'm sharing with you right now are some brain scans. Dr. Daniel Amen has done some great work on the science of addiction and brain scans. I have emailed you some information on that. I'm actually not going to discuss that right now. You could read it later if you so choose. One thing I'd like to say is that currently there's a billboard in West Ossipee, New Hampshire, advertising Maine therapeutic cannabis. And I contacted Mr. Holt to let him know that, to wonder if there's any kind of restrictions on an out-of-state cannabis shop. He said that there is not. And he reminded me that in this bill, on page 15, lines 1 through 2, there is a provision about advertisements. So I just want to let you know that Sam, New Hampshire can actually get behind this bill if it took everything out and just left lines 1 through 2 with violations, for penalties for violation. And because I think that's actually something that needs to be addressed right now, because right now we have out-of-state pot shops being able to advertise. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to testify on this bill that I missed? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. Motion to go into executive session. All in favor? Aye. I have a motion to ITL HB 186 FNA.
Second.
Discussion?
We've had it in front of us for a hot second. Should we?
I've seen enough. I know what I want to know. I know how I want to vote. Senator Abbott seconded my vote.
And I can explain to you about commercial real estate. The value is normally typically determined based on how much income you produce. I'm talking about commercial real estate.
You're talking the auto mile problem.
Well, commercial real estate takes into consideration, it's an income producing property, right? How much, that's ultimately the number one factor. If it's zoned for retail and you have a business that deters potential retail tenants interested in this location, over time it would have a problem. All right, if you ever notice that the pawn shop and the porn store are often in the same building, no disrespect to those industries, but there's a reason for that, and that the market kind of dictates that. If you had a marijuana mile in any of our border towns, there is the potential of basically deterring certain businesses wanting to do business near that location. Now, again, that's not even the cannabis industry's fault. That's just a matter of fact involving the market. But to allow an unlimited amount of stores in some of these towns, say, oh, well, they can address it with zoning. I mean, they're trying to use something for a retail property for retail use, and they think this could lead to have unintended consequences. Just
I also didn't like that if a town, let's just say, Plastow accepted, they have to let every single industry in who wants to come on their commercial zoning. And just didn't sit well, so.
And the reason for that is, I mean, listen, some of these smaller stores go under, they can't even file bankruptcy and discharge the debt. I mean, I understand there's a lot changing at the federal level, but it just, that is designed to protect the people in the industry, not harm them. But anyway, I'll support the ITL motion.
All in favor of the ITL motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Take it out. For me.
Move for consent.
I like that. Very creative.
That's
Jeremy,
gonna
take
be
it.
a no.
Jeremy, take it out.
I can take it out.
I can take it out. I'll take it out. And motion to move out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor, we're all aye. Okay, wrote. Thank you. Thank you both. Have a long day.
Oh, is it still on? It's still on.